What's up, story lovers? Welcome to Black Magic. In today's video, we have a fantastic tale for you. What if the Thestrals crowned Harry as their Death King at age 5 and he built an undead army before Hogwarts? If this is your first time here, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you never miss a story. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for your continued support. Alright, let's jump right into it. Chapter 1, The Crown of Bones. Harry Potter huddled in the cramped darkness of his cupboard, knees pulled tight to his chest. Outside, the Dursleys' voices boomed through dinner conversation as if he didn't exist. His stomach growled. No food again. 3 days now. Worthless burden, Uncle Vernon had spat earlier when Harry accidentally dropped a plate while cleaning. No dinner for a week. Harry pressed his palm against the cupboard door. 5 years old, and he already understood hatred. Not the concept, exactly, but the feeling, how it lived in Vernon's piggy eyes and Petunia's pinched face. How it followed him through number 4, Privet Drive like a shadow. A spider crawled across his hand. Harry didn't flinch. Spiders were his only friends here. Hello, he whispered. The spider paused, legs twitching. For a moment, Harry imagined it understood him. That would be nice. To be understood by something. Harry closed his eyes, thinking of the dreams that came every night. Green light. A woman's scream. Then darkness. The doctors called them night terrors. Aunt Petunia called them attention-seeking nonsense. Harry called them memories. The lock clicked. The cupboard door swung open. Boy! Uncle Vernon's meaty face appeared, mustache twitching with irritation. Dutters wants the back garden to play in. Go make yourself scarce, somewhere people won't see you. Harry slipped past his uncle, careful to avoid touching him. Last time he'd accidentally brushed Vernon's arm, he'd been thrown into the cupboard so hard his shoulder had hurt for days. And be back before dark, or you'll sleep in the shed, Vernon added, already turning back to the television. Outside, summer heat pressed down on little whinging. Harry walked quickly, head down, invisible by practice. The neighbors never looked twice at the small boy in oversized clothes. If they noticed the bruises, they looked away faster. The edge of the neighborhood backed up against Whitaker's Woods, a small forest the neighborhood kids avoided because of rumors about tramps and wild dogs. Harry had heard Dudley and his friends daring each other to venture in, but none ever did. Harry didn't hesitate. The woods meant freedom, temporary, but real. No Dursleys. No chores. No cupboard. The temperature dropped as he stepped under the canopy of trees. Sunlight filtered through leaves, creating patterns on the forest floor. Harry followed a narrow dirt path, wondering how far he could go before needing to turn back. Something rustled in the undergrowth. Hello. Harry called, voice small in the vastness. No answer, but the rustling stopped. Harry continued deeper, pushing through low-hanging branches. His two big trainers, Dudley's cast-offs, caught on roots and stones, but he pressed on. The trees grew thicker, closer together. The path disappeared. Harry realized he should probably turn back, but a strange feeling pulled him forward. Like someone calling his name from far away. Then he saw it. Standing between two ancient oaks, a creature unlike anything Harry had ever seen. Skeletal, with leathery wings folded against its body. Its head reminded him of a dragon from one of Dudley's books, reptilian but horse-like. And its eyes, white and glowing, fixed directly on him. Harry froze. The creature didn't move. They stared at each other across the forest clearing. What are you? Harry whispered. The creature's head tilted. One hoof pawed the ground. Harry should have been terrified. Instead, curiosity pushed fear aside. He took a step forward. Can you understand me? The creature snorted, a sound like wind through bare branches. Then it extended one wing, beckoning. Harry moved closer, hand outstretched. The creature's skin felt like old leather, warm beneath his fingertips. "You're beautiful," Harry said. More rustling. From between the trees, more creatures appeared, identical to the first but varying in size. A herd. They formed a semicircle around Harry, white eyes unblinking. One of them, larger than the rest, stepped forward. It lowered its head, nudging Harry's chest right where his heart beat rapidly against his ribs. "What do you want?" Harry asked. The creature whinnied softly. The sound rippled through the air, and Harry felt something shift inside him, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. The largest creature reared up on its hind legs, wings spread wide, then dropped its front hooves to the ground. The earth trembled. The forest around them darkened. Not like sunset, but like someone had dimmed the world's brightness. Shadows stretched, wrapped around trees, crept across the ground toward Harry. "I'm not afraid," Harry said, surprised to find it true. The lead creature circled him slowly. The others joined, moving in perfect synchronization, creating a whirlwind of skeletal bodies and leathery wings. Harry stood motionless at the center, watching as the shadows pooled at his feet then began climbing his legs like vines. The shadows didn't feel cold or scary. They felt like belonging. Like coming home. The lead creature stopped directly in front of Harry. It bent its head until their eyes met. Then it spoke, not with words, but with images and feelings that bloomed inside Harry's mind. "Death-touched child. You see us. We see you. Who are you?" Harry asked. "Thestrals. Death's guides. Only those touched by death can see us. Touched by death. Your mother died before your eyes. Her sacrifice marked you. Death's shadow rests upon you." Images flashed through Harry's mind, a woman with red hair standing between him and a hooded figure. Green light. That scream again. "My mum," Harry whispered, tears welling up. "Long have we searched for one worthy to wear the crown. Death's child. Death's king." The shadows swirled faster around Harry, climbing to his waist, his chest, his neck. The Thestrals circled tighter, their movements creating a wind that stirred Harry's unruly hair. "Will you accept what we offer? Will you rule what others fear?" Harry didn't fully understand, but he knew this: these creatures saw him. Really saw him. Not as a burden or a freak or an unwanted orphan. They saw something worthy in him. "Yes," Harry said. "I accept." The lead Thestral reared up again. This time when its hooves struck the ground, the forest floor split open. From the crack, something rose, a crown made of bone and shadow, hovering in the air between Harry and the Thestral. Once worn, never removed. Once chosen, never abandoned. "Death's king you shall become." The crown floated toward Harry. As it neared, it changed, shrinking, reshaping until it looked like a thin circlet of silvery bone. Harry reached for it. "I'm not afraid," he repeated, and placed the crown on his head. Pain exploded behind his eyes. Harry gasped, falling to his knees. The world tilted sideways then upside down. Shadows engulfed him completely, and for one terrifying moment, Harry couldn't breathe, couldn't see, couldn't think. Then clarity. Sharp and sudden like breaking through water's surface. Harry opened his eyes to a changed world. The forest looked the same but, more. He could see life pulsing in the trees like glowing veins. He could see tiny creatures skittering through the undergrowth. And something else, wispy forms moving between trees, humanoid but transparent. "What are those?" Harry asked, pointing. "The dead who linger. Your subjects now." One of the wispy forms noticed Harry looking and drifted closer. As it approached, features became clearer, an old man with a weathered face and kind eyes. "You see me, lad?" the ghostly figure asked, voice echoing strangely. "Yes," Harry answered. "Who are you?" "Thomas Whitaker." died 1937. These woods were mine. The ghost looked at the crown on Harry's head. Ah, they've chosen at last. Been waiting centuries, they have. Speak your will, Death King. Command your first subject. Harry hesitated. I don't know what to command. The ghost of Thomas Whitaker chuckled. Start small, Your Majesty. Perhaps ask me to show you something. Can you show me where you lived? Harry asked. Thomas bowed. Follow me, sire. The ghost drifted through the trees. Harry followed, the Thestrals moving silently alongside him. They walked for what seemed like hours but might have been minutes. Time felt strange, stretched and compressed at once. They reached a small clearing where ruins of a stone cottage stood, crumbling walls half reclaimed by nature. My home, Thomas said. Been empty since I passed. No family left to claim it. Harry approached the ruins. As he stepped across what had once been the threshold, something tugged at him from beneath the earth. He knelt, pressing his palm against the dirt floor. Someone's buried here, he said, not knowing how he knew. Thomas confirmed. My old hound, Brutus. Faithful beast died defending me from poachers. Buried him under the floor so he'd always be near. Harry closed his eyes. The crown on his head hummed with energy. Without understanding how, Harry reached down, not with his hand, but with his mind, into the earth, searching for what remained of Brutus. Come, Harry whispered. Come back to your master. The ground beneath Harry's palm grew warm. Dirt shifted, then parted. Bones, small, canine, rose from the earth, assembling themselves into a skeleton. The dog's skull turned toward Harry, empty eye sockets somehow conveying expectation. Brutus, Harry breathed. Protect Thomas. The skeletal dog shook itself, dust and dirt falling away from yellowed bones. Then it turned to Thomas, tail, now just vertebrae, wagging. Thomas Whitaker's ghostly eyes widened. Brutus? Is it truly you, old friend? The skeleton dog barked, a hollow, eerie sound, and circled the ghost excitedly. How did you do that? Thomas asked Harry. Harry touched the crown. I think, this lets me. The crown of bones grants dominion over death's realm. What has died answers to you now. Harry looked around the ruined cottage. Could I fix this place? Your power grows with practice. Begin small. Build slowly. Harry nodded, understanding. He walked through the cottage ruins, mentally mapping what it might have looked like. One room remained partially intact, stone walls still standing, though the roof had long since collapsed. This could be fixed, Harry said. I could stay here sometimes. When the Dursleys. He trailed off, but the lead Thestral nudged him gently. Your suffering is known to us. This can be sanctuary. Over the next hours, Harry experimented with his new abilities. He discovered he could summon small animal bones from the forest floor, mice, birds, rabbits, and command them to perform simple tasks. The skeletons cleared debris from the cottage room, stacking stones back into place where walls had crumbled. Thomas guided Harry, showing him how the cottage had been arranged. Brutus fetched sticks and stones, seemingly delighted to serve again after decades of stillness. You need to get back, lad, Thomas said as shadows lengthened. Before they come looking. Harry nodded reluctantly. I'll come back tomorrow. And the next day. We'll make this place whole again. We will guard it in your absence. Harry carefully removed leaves and dirt from his clothes, trying to hide evidence of his adventure. Before leaving, he placed his hand on the crown. Will anyone see this? He asked the Thestrals. Only those who see us will see it. To others, invisible. Reassured, Harry made his way back through the forest. The Thestrals escorted him to the edge of the woods, stopping where the trees met the manicured lawns of Little Whinging. Thank you, Harry said. For choosing me. The lead Thestral bowed its head. Until tomorrow, Death King. Harry ran back to Privet Drive, arriving just as street lamps flickered on. He slipped into the house through the back door, hoping to reach his cupboard unnoticed. No such luck. Where have you been, boy? Vernon demanded, face purple with anger. Dudley wanted his computer set up an hour ago. Sorry, Uncle Vernon, Harry said automatically, eyes downcast. Vernon grabbed Harry's arm, fingers digging painfully into small muscles. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Harry looked up. Something had changed, he could see a darkness around Vernon, a murky cloud that pulsed with each angry heartbeat. And something else, tiny skeletal mice scurrying around Vernon's feet, visible only to Harry. Harry hadn't summoned them. At least, not consciously. What are you staring at? Vernon shook him. Got something to say? No, Uncle Vernon. Then get to Dudley's room and set up his computer. Now. Harry hurried upstairs, the skeletal mice following. In Dudley's room, filled with toys his cousin had already broken or grown bored with, Harry quickly connected the new computer components. The mice skittered around, examining everything with hollow eye sockets. One climbed onto Dudley's bed and began pulling at the sheets. Stop, Harry whispered. You'll get me in trouble. The mice froze, then gathered around Harry's feet, awaiting instructions. I don't know what to do with you, Harry told them. Can you, just watch? Keep me company. The mice scattered around the room, positioning themselves like tiny sentries. Harry smiled, his first real smile in the Dursley house that he could remember. That night, locked in his cupboard again without dinner, Harry lay awake, crown still on his head. The darkness didn't bother him anymore, he could see through it now, perceiving shapes and movements invisible before. Ghostly figures drifted through the house walls, spirits Harry had never noticed. An old woman in Victorian dress peered curiously into his cupboard. Hello, dear, she said, voice like wind chimes. New gift, have you? Been haunting this plot since 1890, and never seen the like. Who are you? Harry asked. Martha Gallagher. This was my land before houses sprouted like weeds. She studied him. Death's crown suits you, child. Rare thing, that is. What does it mean? To be Death's king. Martha settled beside his mattress. Balance, child. Death isn't evil, it's natural. Necessary. Some fear it, fight it unnaturally. Others abuse it, twist it to harm. You'll stand between, keeping the balance, ensuring respect for the great transition. Harry pondered this. Can I help people with it? In time. You're young yet. The crown will teach you. Martha told Harry stories until he drifted to sleep, tales of the land before Privet Drive existed, of people long forgotten by everyone except her. For the first time since arriving at the Dursleys, Harry slept without nightmares. Dawn broke with Aunt Petunia's sharp rapping on his cupboard door. Up. Get up. You need to cook breakfast. Harry rose quickly. The crown still circled his head, invisible to his aunt as she thrust a frying pan into his hands. He cooked mechanically, mind still processing everything from yesterday. The skeletal mice had followed him downstairs, scurrying between chair legs and under the table. Harry worried they might cause trouble, but they remained hidden from everyone but him. Don't burn the bacon, Petunia snapped. It's Duddy's favorite. Harry flipped the bacon, watching Petunia with new eyes. Like Vernon, she had a cloud around her, not as dark as his uncle's, but tinged with sickly yellow. Envy, perhaps. Harry somehow knew. Dudley thundered down the stairs, each step shaking dust from Harry's cupboard below. The cloud around his cousin was different, patchy, unformed, like his character was still developing. Not solidified into the hardened cruelty of his parents. Interesting. More bacon. Dudley demanded, shoving Harry as he passed. One of the skeletal mice darted forward, nipping at Dudley's ankle. Ow! Dudley yelped, jumping back. Something bit me. Nothing bit you, Petunia soothed. You probably scratched yourself. Harry hid a smile, sending a silent command to the mouse, careful. Don't be seen. After breakfast, Vernon announced his plans. We're taking Dudley to the cinema, then lunch at that new restaurant. You, he pointed a sausage-like finger at Harry, will stay with Mrs. Fig. Harry's heart sank. Mrs. Fig was kind enough, but her house smelled of cabbage and cats, and she always made him look at photographs of every feline she'd ever owned. Actually, Harry said, surprising himself with his boldness, could I stay here? I promised to stay in my cupboard. Vernon's eyes narrowed suspiciously. And what mischief would you get up to, alone in our house? No, boy. Mrs. Fig's it is. But when Vernon called Mrs. Fig, she couldn't take Harry, she'd broken her leg tripping over one of her cats. Vernon and Petunia argued in harsh whispers while Dudley wailed about Harry ruining everything. We'll have to take him with us, Petunia finally hissed. I could stay in the car, Harry suggested. In this heat? People would talk, Petunia said, though her expression suggested she'd consider it if neighbors wouldn't notice. I could go to the library, Harry tried again. It's public. Lots of people. Vernon and Petunia exchanged glances. The librarians would watch him, Petunia reasoned. And it keeps him out of sight. Vernon grunted agreement. Fine. Library. But you'd better behave, boy. One complaint and you'll wish you'd never been born. The threat rang hollow. Harry already wished that regularly. The local library was a small brick building with large windows and the musty smell of old paper. Vernon practically shoved Harry through the doors. We'll collect you at 4. Stay put. Harry nodded, watching the Dursleys' car pull away with a sense of liberation. 8 hours of freedom. The library was quiet, only a few patrons browsing shelves or reading at tables. Harry wandered into the children's section, fingertips trailing along colorful book spines. Can I help you find something? Asked a kind-faced librarian. I'm just looking, Harry replied. Well, let me know if you need anything. I'm Ms. Parsons. Harry nodded and continued exploring. He found a secluded corner with beanbag chairs and selected a book about knights and dragons. As he settled into reading, he noticed something peculiar, a wispy form browsing the shelves nearby. Another ghost. This one was young, maybe 20, dressed in clothes from the 1960s. She noticed Harry watching and looked startled. You can see me? She asked. Harry nodded. I'm Harry. Eliza. Died 1967. Motorcycle accident. She floated closer. No one's seen me in, well, decades. I can see all sorts of things now, Harry said, touching his crown. Eliza's eyes widened. The crown of bones. I thought it was just a story dead folk tell each other. What stories? Eliza settled cross-legged in the air above a beanbag. That someday a ruler would come who'd bridge the worlds of living and dead. Someone touched by death but firmly in life. She studied him. You're so young. I'm 5, Harry said. Almost 6. A child king. Eliza laughed softly. How appropriate. Children see what adults cannot. Harry spent the morning talking with Eliza, who told him about the library's history and the books she'd loved in life. Other patrons occasionally glanced oddly at the small boy apparently talking to himself in the corner, but no one interrupted. Around noon, Harry felt hungry. He had no money for lunch, but his stomach growled insistently. There's a vending machine in the staff room, Eliza said. Sometimes coins get stuck or forgotten. She led Harry to a door marked, staff only. Harry hesitated. I can't go in there. I'll look first, Eliza offered, drifting through the door. She returned moments later. Empty. And there's half a sandwich in the refrigerator with no name on it. Been there 3 days, no one's claimed it. Harry's moral compass wavered. Taking food felt wrong, but hunger won out. He slipped into the staff room, quickly grabbed the sandwich, and retreated to his corner. As he ate, a strange prickling sensation ran up his spine. Harry turned to find a girl about his age watching him from behind a bookshelf. She had straggly blonde hair and wide, protuberant eyes. "Hello," she said dreamily. "You have raxburts all around your head. And something else." Her head tilted. "Something shiny." Harry's hand flew to his crown. "You can see it?" The girl moved closer, nodding. "It's beautiful. Are you a prince?" "Not exactly." Harry glanced at Eliza, who looked as surprised as he felt. "I'm Harry Potter. Luna Lovegood." She sat beside him, unperturbed by his confusion. "Daddy's doing research in the mythology section. We're looking for evidence of crumplehorn snorkax." "What are those?" Luna launched into a detailed explanation of magical creatures Harry had never heard of. She spoke with complete conviction, as though these fantastic beasts were as common as squirrels. "You're different," Luna said suddenly, interrupting her own description of nargles. "Like me. People think I'm strange too." "I don't think you're strange," Harry said. Luna beamed. "I can see them too, you know. The horse-dragon creatures in the forest. Daddy says I can see them because I watched Mummy die last year." Harry's breath caught. "I'm sorry about your mum." "She's still around sometimes," Luna said matter-of-factly. "I talked to her, but she can't answer back." Harry glanced at Eliza, who nodded encouragingly. "Maybe I could help with that," Harry offered. Luna's eyes widened. "Really? How?" "It's hard to explain. But if your mum is around, I might be able to help you talk to her. She comes to my house sometimes. Daddy can't see her, but I know she's there." "Where do you live?" Harry asked. "Ottery St. Catchpole. It's far from here." Harry's face fell. Too far to visit without the Dursleys noticing his absence. "Luna, dear," called a man's voice. "Found anything interesting?" A tall man with white blonde hair as straggly as Luna's appeared around the bookshelf. He wore bright yellow robes that looked out of place in the Muggle library. "Daddy. This is Harry. He has a crown only we can see." Mr. Lovegood's eyebrows rose as he studied Harry. "Fascinating. A psychic manifestation, perhaps? Or an actual ethereal artifact?" "Xenophilius Lovegood," he introduced himself, shaking Harry's hand enthusiastically. "Editor of the Quibbler." "Nice to meet you, sir," Harry said. "Luna seems quite taken with you," Xenophilius observed. "We don't live far from here, just Opperat in for research. Perhaps you could visit sometime." "I'd like that," Harry said, though he had no idea what Opperat meant or how he'd ever manage such a visit. Luna scribbled something on a piece of paper. "Here's where we live. If you can find a way, come see us." Harry pocketed the address, knowing it was unlikely he'd ever use it but touched by the invitation. After the Lovegoods left, Harry turned to Eliza. "What's operating?" "Wizard travel," Eliza explained. "Instant teleportation. I married a wizard, that's how I know. Muggles can't see it happening." "Wizards are real?" Harry asked, stunned. Eliza laughed. "Of course. You're wearing the crown of bones, communicating with the dead, and that's what surprises you." Harry spent the rest of the afternoon bombarding Eliza with questions about wizards. She explained about magical communities hidden from Muggles, about Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, about the Ministry of Magic. "You're a wizard too, you know," she told him. That crown wouldn't have chosen you otherwise. Magic calls to magic. But I can't do magic, Harry protested. Are you sure? Think about it. Have strange things ever happened around you? Especially when you're scared or angry? Harry remembered instances, his hair growing back overnight after a terrible haircut from Aunt Petunia, finding himself suddenly on the school roof when running from Dudley's gang, a teacher's wig turning blue when she'd scolded him unfairly. Those were magic, he whispered. Accidental magic. All wizard children do it before they learn control. By the time Vernon arrived to collect him, Harry's mind buzzed with revelations. He was a wizard. Magic was real. And somehow, he'd been chosen to wear a crown that connected him to death. Been reading about freakish things, have you? Vernon growled, spotting the fantasy book Harry had been enjoying. Just stories, Uncle Vernon, Harry said quietly. Vernon grunted, steering Harry roughly toward the car. Better not get ideas. There's no such thing as magic. Harry caught Eliza's eye over Vernon's shoulder. She winked. There absolutely is, Harry thought, hiding a smile. That night, Harry waited until the house fell silent. The Dursleys' snores vibrated through the walls as Harry carefully opened his cupboard door. The skeletal mice scouted ahead, confirming the coast was clear. Harry slipped out the back door, crown glowing faintly in the darkness. The night air felt cool against his face as he ran toward Whitaker's woods. The Thestrals waited at the forest edge, as though they'd known he would come. Can you take me to the cottage? Harry asked. The lead Thestral knelt, allowing Harry to climb onto its bony back. The sensation of flying, even just above the treetops, exhilarated Harry. Wind rushed through his hair as the Thestral carried him deeper into the forest. The cottage ruins looked different at night. Moonlight silvered the stones, and ghostly figures gathered in the clearing, Thomas Whitaker among them, with skeletal Brutus at his side. Welcome back, Your Majesty, Thomas said, bowing slightly. Harry slid from the Thestral's back. I want to continue fixing this place. Thomas gestured to the gathered spirits. Word has spread. These souls wish to serve Death's King. Harry looked around at the assembled ghosts, men and women from different time periods, all watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to reverence. I don't need servants, Harry said. But I could use friends. This statement caused a ripple of murmurs among the spirits. The oldest-looking ghost, a man in medieval clothing, stepped forward. I am Sir Edmund Blackwood, Boy King. Died 1342. We offer not just friendship but knowledge. Centuries of experience at your disposal. Harry considered this. Can you teach me about my powers? How to use them? Sir Edmund nodded. The Crown of Bones has chosen carriers only thrice in recorded history. Each learned differently, but all commanded both dead and death itself. What does that mean? Commanding death. It means, young sire, that you can call back those recently departed if their spirits have not yet fully crossed. It means you can sense when death approaches. It means the dead will fight for you, should you require defense. Harry's mind raced with possibilities. Could I talk to my parents? A hush fell over the gathering. Sir Edmund's expression softened. That depends, sire. How long have they been gone? For years, I think. Sir Edmund exchanged glances with the other ghosts. Spirits typically linger only when they have unfinished business. After 4 years, most have moved beyond our reach. Harry's shoulders slumped. But, Sir Edmund continued, there are exceptions. Especially for those who died violently or protectively. And your connection is stronger than most. How would I try? Harry asked. Focus on your memories of them. Use the crown to reach beyond the veil. Harry closed his eyes, concentrating on the fragments he recalled, his mother's red hair, the sound of his father's laugh, the green light. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. I can't remember enough, Harry admitted, opening his eyes. Perhaps we need a stronger connection, suggested a ghost Harry hadn't noticed before, a severe-looking woman in prison garb. Something that belonged to them. I don't have anything of theirs. The Dursleys never gave me anything. What of your mother's blood? The prison ghost asked. You carry that within you. Blood connections are powerful in death magic. How do I use that? The ghost approached. I'm Agnes Whitmore, hanged 1815 for witchcraft, falsely, I might add. In life, I studied old magics. She pointed to Harry's palm. A drop of blood, freely given, with intent to connect. Harry looked to Sir Edmund, who nodded confirmation. Taking a deep breath, Harry found a sharp stone and carefully pricked his finger. A bright bead of blood welled up. Now what? Focus on your mother. Call to her with your mind while the blood is fresh. Harry stared at the droplet, picturing his mother's face from the few fragmented memories he possessed. Mum, he called mentally. Mum, if you can hear me, please come. The blood on his finger began to glow with the same silvery light as his crown. The clearing grew colder. Mist gathered, swirling into a column before Harry. For one breathtaking moment, Harry thought he saw her, a flash of red hair, green eyes like his own, but the image dispersed like smoke in wind. She's too far gone, Agnes said gently. The sacrifice she made for you was powerful enough to propel her beyond our reach. Harry wiped away tears he hadn't realized were falling. What about other people? People who knew them? The ghosts exchanged glances. There might be one, Thomas said slowly. A prisoner whose spirit reaches out in dreams but whose body still lives. He knew your parents well. Who? Harry asked. His name echoes in the realm between, Sirius Black. Harry's eyes widened. Where is he? Azkaban prison. Wizard prison, Agnes clarified. I sense his spirit there, fractured, tortured, but clinging to sanity through one thought, his innocence. What was he imprisoned for? Betraying your parents to their killer, Sir Edmund said. But the dead know truth from lies. He is innocent of this crime. Harry's fists clenched. Then I want to talk to him. How? Sleep, Agnes instructed. Here, in Death's sanctuary. The crown will guide your dreams to his cell. The Thestrals had been busy while they talked. They'd gathered fallen leaves and soft moss, creating a bed in the one intact room of the cottage. Harry lay down, exhaustion suddenly overwhelming him. We'll watch over you, Thomas promised. Dream well, Death King. Harry closed his eyes, the crown humming softly against his temples. Sleep came instantly, dragging him down into darkness. He dreamed of cold stone walls and bitter sea air. Of despair so thick it choked. Of creatures that floated like tattered black cloaks, sucking joy from the atmosphere. And of a man, once handsome, now gaunt, curled in the corner of a tiny cell. Black hair hung in matted tangles around a hollowed face. But his eyes, they burned with fierce determination. In the dream, Harry approached the bars of the cell. Sirius Black. The man's head snapped up, eyes widening as they fixed on Harry. James, he whispered hoarsely, then shook his head. No, those eyes. Harry. Little Harry. It's me, Dream Harry confirmed. Sirius scrambled to the bars, hands gripping them until knuckles whitened. How? This must be madness finally taking me. It's not madness. I'm really reaching you. Through dreams. Sirius stared in wonder. You look so much like your father. But Lily's eyes. His voice cracked. How old are you now? 5. Almost 6, Harry said. 6 years, Sirius whispered. 6 years in this hell for a crime I didn't commit. I know you're innocent, Harry told him. The dead told me. Sirius barked a laugh that sounded rusty from disuse. The dead? Harry, what are you talking about? Harry explained about the Thestrals, the crown, his new abilities. Sirius listened with increasing amazement. Necromancy, he finally said. Not dark as wizards fear, but old magic. Very old. He studied Harry through the dream bars. Your mother researched ancient protections before you were born. I wonder if she knew. Knew what? That her sacrifice might mark you for this path. They talked until the dream began fading at its edges. Harry fighting to maintain the connection. I'll find a way to free you, Harry promised. Now that I know the truth. Be careful, Harry, Sirius warned. Your new abilities, the wizarding world fears death magic. With good reason, sometimes. Promise me you'll be cautious about who knows what you can do. I promise. But I won't leave you in there. Sirius reached through the bars, hand passing through Harry's insubstantial dream form. Your parents would be proud of the boy you're becoming. No matter what path you walk. Harry woke with tears on his cheeks and dawn breaking through the cottage's missing roof. The ghosts still gathered around, watching expectantly. I spoke to him, Harry said, sitting up. He is innocent. Then justice demands his freedom, Sir Edmund declared. Harry stood, brushing leaves from his clothes. I have to get back before the Dursleys wake up. We'll take you, Thomas said. But will you return? Every chance I get, Harry promised. This is my true home now. Over the weeks that followed, Harry established a pattern. Days with the Dursleys, pretending nothing had changed. Nights, as many as he could manage, at the cottage, learning from the ghosts and strengthening his abilities. The cottage transformed. Harry discovered he could command not just animal bones but plant matter that had died, fallen branches, dead leaves, even the massive trunk of an oak that had fallen decades ago. These materials formed new walls, a sturdy roof, even simple furniture. His power grew. Small animal skeletons became his constant companions and scouts. They watched the Dursleys, warned Harry of danger, and carried messages between Harry and his growing legion of ghostly allies. One raccoon skeleton, cleverer than the rest, became Harry's favorite companion. He named it Rattle, and it rarely left his side, hiding in bushes or trees when Harry had to appear normal. Harry attempted contact with Sirius 3 more times through dreams. Each connection became stronger, more focused. Sirius shared stories about Harry's parents, about magic, about the wizarding world Harry would someday enter. There was a wizard war, Sirius explained during their 4th dream meeting. Your parents fought against a dark wizard called Voldemort. He killed them, tried to kill you, but somehow couldn't. Why did he want to kill me? Harry asked. A prophecy, your father said. Something about you being a threat to Voldemort. Dumbledore knew the details. Dumbledore? Albus Dumbledore. Greatest wizard alive. Headmaster of Hogwarts. Sirius's face darkened. He knew I wasn't the secret keeper. Knew I couldn't have betrayed James and Lily. But he let me rot here anyway. Secret keeper. Sirius explained about the Fidelius charm, how everyone believed he had been entrusted with the Potter's location, but how they had switched to Peter Pettigrew at the last minute. Pettigrew betrayed them, then framed me by killing those muggles and faking his own death. Sirius's hands curled into fists. He's still out there, living as a rat. Literally, he's an animagus, can transform into a rat. How do I find him? Harry asked. Last I heard through prison gossip, he was hiding with a wizarding family. The Weasleys, I think. Harry committed the name to memory. If I find him, I can free you. Be careful, Harry. You're too young to confront him directly. Sirius hesitated. There might be another way. Your abilities. Could you command something dead to retrieve him? Harry considered this. Maybe. I've never sent anything far from me. Practice, Sirius advised. Build your strength. When you're ready, we'll plan properly. Harry took the advice seriously. His nightly excursions to the cottage became focused training sessions. The ghosts taught him concentration exercises. The Thestrals showed him how to extend his senses beyond his immediate surroundings. He practiced with increasingly complex commands, sending skeletal animals on longer missions. Rattle proved exceptionally responsive, able to follow complicated instructions and return with detailed information. By late summer, Harry could maintain a connection with Rattle over several miles. He sent the raccoon skeleton to scout Little Whinging, mapping escape routes and hiding places. His sanctuary in Whitaker's woods flourished. The cottage, now sturdy and secure, became a storage place for small treasures, books borrowed from the school library, food he managed to squirrel away, a blanket he'd rescued from the Dursleys' trash. But most valuable were the lessons. Sir Edmund taught strategy and leadership. Agnes shared knowledge of old magics. Thomas showed Harry the secrets of the forest. And each night, new ghosts arrived, drawn to the young Death King's growing power. One evening in August, Harry sat cross-legged in the cottage clearing, eyes closed in concentration. 20 skeletal creatures, from mice to foxes, moved in perfect coordination, performing complex maneuvers at his silent command. Sir Edmund watched approvingly. Your control improves daily, sire. Harry opened his eyes, releasing the animals from their patterns. Is it enough? To help Sirius? Perhaps, Sir Edmund considered. But it would require coordination beyond anything you've attempted. I want to try, Harry insisted. The ghosts conferred among themselves before Agnes stepped forward. We've developed a plan, if your majesty permits. Harry nodded eagerly. Tell me. First, we need to grow your army, Agnes explained. Larger creatures, more of them. Where do I find larger bones? Harry asked. There's an old cemetery 2 miles east, Thomas said. Abandoned since the new one was built in town. Harry's eyes widened. You mean, human remains? The ghosts exchanged glances. It represents a significant escalation of your powers, Sir Edmund acknowledged. But the dead there have lain undisturbed for generations. Many would welcome purpose. Harry hesitated. Using animal skeletons felt natural, harmless. Human remains seemed different. Would it hurt them? The spirits? Only if they resist, Agnes assured him. Many will consent willingly to serve Death's King. Those who refuse can remain at rest. Harry considered carefully. I'll only use the ones who agree. That night, the Thestrals carried Harry to the forgotten cemetery. Headstones tilted at odd angles, many so weathered their inscriptions had vanished. Wild roses and brambles covered graves in tangled masses. Harry stood at the cemetery gate, crown glowing brighter than ever. He closed his eyes, extending his senses into the earth below. I am Harry Potter, he called, not with his voice but with his mind. I wear death's crown. I seek willing allies from among the dead. Silence stretched, broken only by night insects and distant owls. Then, response. Not words exactly, but feelings, curiosity, interest, some wariness. I offer purpose, Harry continued. And in return, I promise respect for your service. More stirring beneath the soil. The ground trembled slightly. Those who wish to join me, rise. The earth heaved in a dozen places. Bony hands broke through soil, followed by arms, skulls, ribcages. Skeletons pulled themselves from their graves, some nearly complete, others missing pieces. 23 in all. They assembled before Harry, standing in eerie silence. Harry approached the nearest, once a tall man, now a 7-foot skeleton. Do you have a name? Harry asked aloud. No answer came in words, but an impression formed in Harry's mind. Samuel Graves, blacksmith, 1724 to 1782. Samuel, Harry acknowledged. Thank you for answering my call. One by one, Harry communicated with each skeleton, learning fragments of who they had been. Most had died in the 1700s and 1800s, forgotten by living descendants. With each exchange, Harry felt his connection to Death's realm strengthen. The crown hummed with power, sending tendrils of energy to repair and reinforce the assembled skeletons. Broken bones mended. Missing pieces regenerated as shadowy replacements. I need to test your abilities, Harry told them. Can you move as I direct? The skeletons stood at attention. Harry sent mental commands, watching as they performed increasingly complex actions, marching in formation, climbing trees, carrying objects, even mimicking fighting stances Sir Edmund demonstrated. By dawn, Harry had a functioning undead squad. He instructed them to remain in the cemetery by day, hidden among the overgrowth. At night, they would come to the cottage for further training. This changes everything, Harry told his ghostly council as the Thestrals flew him back to Privet Drive. With these soldiers, we can rescue Sirius. Not yet, Sir Edmund cautioned. You need rest, planning, more practice. Harry reluctantly agreed, though impatience burned within him. Each dream conversation with Sirius revealed more suffering, more injustice. 2 more weeks passed in intense preparation. Harry mastered controlling his undead forces over greater distances. He practiced splitting his attention between multiple groups. He learned to see through their empty eye sockets, a disorienting experience that made him vomit the first time but became smoother with practice. The night before his 6th birthday, Harry gathered his forces at the cottage. Tomorrow, he announced to the assembled ghosts and skeletons. Tomorrow we free Sirius Black. Sir Edmund stepped forward. The plan is sound, but dangerous. Azkaban lies far from here, surrounded by ocean. The Thestrals will carry me, Harry said. I only need to get close enough to call to the dead there. Agnes looked worried. The prison contains more than human guards. Dementors patrol its walls, creatures that feed on happiness, that can suck out souls. They serve death in their way, Harry replied with confidence beyond his years. They'll recognize the crown. Final preparations continued through the night. By dawn, Harry had memorized the plan down to the smallest detail. He returned to Privet Drive for what he hoped would be one of his last days there. The Dursleys, as expected, made no mention of his birthday. Harry ate the meager breakfast they provided, performed his chores mechanically, and waited for night to fall. After dinner, Uncle Vernon shoved a bucket and mop at him. Clean the kitchen floor, boy. And do it properly this time. Harry took the cleaning supplies without complaint. His mind was elsewhere, rehearsing each step of tonight's mission. As he mopped, a strange sound came from outside, like wings beating against the summer air. Harry froze. Through the kitchen window, he saw a massive shape descending into the back garden, a figure so large it could only be one thing. A giant, Harry whispered. The figure approached the back door, which suddenly seemed far too small to accommodate it. 3 loud knocks rattled the house's foundation. Uncle Vernon stormed into the kitchen. Who the blazes is calling at this hour? He yanked open the door, then stumbled back with a strangled cry. Framed in the doorway stood the largest man Harry had ever seen. Wild black hair and beard covered most of his face, but kind eyes peered out from the tangle. He wore a moleskin overcoat with countless pockets. Sorry 'bout that, the giant said cheerfully. Door's a bit small. You must be Dursley. Vernon found his voice. You're one of them. Get out of my house. The giant ignored him, scanning the room until his gaze landed on Harry. And there he is. Harry Potter. His beetle-black eyes crinkled with delight. Last time I saw you, you was only a baby. Yeah, look like your dad, but you've got your mum's eyes. Harry stared, mop still clutched in his hands. You knew my parents? Course I did. Oh, sorry, haven't introduced myself. Rubius Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts. He extended a massive hand, which Harry shook automatically. The giant's grip was surprisingly gentle. Why are you here? Harry asked, mind racing. His plans for tonight suddenly complicated. Hagrid reached into one of his many pockets and pulled out a slightly squashed box. First of all, happy birthday. He handed the box to Harry. Might sat on it at some point, but it'll taste all right. Harry opened the box to find a sticky chocolate cake with, Happy Birthday Harry, written in green icing. His first ever birthday cake. Thank you, he said, genuinely touched. Not every day a young man turns 11, is it? Hagrid beamed. I'm 6, Harry corrected. Hagrid's smile faltered. 6. No, you're 11 today. July 31st, 1991. It's 1986, Harry said, confused. Vernon made a strange choking sound. Petunia, who had appeared in the doorway, went pale. What have you been telling the boy? Hagrid demanded, rounding on the Dursleys. Nothing, Vernon blustered. The ungrateful brat knows his birthday. I was born in 1980, Harry said slowly. That makes me 6 today. Hagrid looked bewildered. Harry, it's 1991. You're 11. Old enough for Hogwarts now. He pulled an envelope from another pocket. Got your letter right here. Harry took the envelope. Heavy parchment addressed in emerald ink, Mr. H., Potter the cupboard under the stairs 4, Privet Drive Little Whinging Surrey. He broke the wax seal and unfolded the letter inside. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confide, of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Harry looked up, stunned. I lost 5 years. Petunia's thin lips pressed together. We thought it best. Best? Hagrid thundered. What do ya mean, best? The boy kept asking questions about his parents, about why he was with us, Petunia snapped. Vernon thought if he believed he was younger, he'd ask fewer questions. Children's minds are impressionable. You lied to me about my age. Harry's voice sounded hollow to his own ears. For 5 years. Made discipline easier, Vernon grunted. Kept you in your place. Harry felt the crown pulse against his temples, though invisible to everyone but him. Rage built inside him, cold, focused rage unlike the helpless anger he'd felt before. Outside, thunder rumbled. The kitchen lights flickered. Harry, Hagrid said gently, placing a massive hand on Harry's shoulder. I don't know what these terrible muggles have done to ya, but it's over now. You're a wizard, Harry. And it's time ya learned about your heritage. A wizard. 11 years old. Invited to a magic school. Harry's mind struggled to absorb these revelations while processing the Dursleys' betrayal. The skeletal mice emerged from hiding places around the kitchen, agitated by Harry's emotions. Rattle appeared in the doorway, chittering silently with rage. What the devil? Vernon gasped, spotting the animated bones. Hagrid stared in disbelief. Blimey, Harry. Are you doing that? Harry didn't answer directly. You're taking me away from here. To Hogwarts? Well, first to get your school things. Then you'll come to Hogwarts in September. Hagrid eyed the skeletons nervously. Didn't expect yet already be doing magic like this, though. Especially not. Not what? Harry challenged. Never mind, Hagrid said quickly. Pack your things. We'll leave tonight. Harry nodded slowly. I need to get something first. From the woods. Harry, Hagrid said hesitantly, whatever's in those woods can wait. We've got lots to do. No, Harry said firmly. It can't wait. I have friends who are expecting me. Hagrid studied Harry's determined expression, then sighed. All right. But I'm coming with ya. Harry considered arguing but decided having Hagrid along might actually help. Fine. But you have to promise not to interfere. Interfere with what? You'll see. Vernon finally found his voice again. Now see here. The boy isn't going anywhere. We swore when we took him in we'd put a stop to all this rubbish. Hagrid turned slowly, drawing himself up to his full, imposing height. Ya knew. Ya knew Harry was a wizard and ya never told him. Knew, shrieked Petunia. Of course we knew. How could he not be with my perfect sister being what she was? She got a letter just like that and disappeared off to that school, came home every vacation with pockets full of frog spawn, turning teacups into rats. I was the only one who saw her for what she was, a freak. Harry's patience snapped. The crown flared with power visible only to him. The skeletal mice swarmed toward Petunia, climbing her legs, her torso, reaching her face. She screamed, batting at them frantically. Enough, Harry commanded, and the mice retreated. I've spent 6 years, no, 11 years, being your slave and punching bag. That ends tonight. He turned to Hagrid. Let's go. Outside, Harry marched purposefully toward Whittaker's woods. Hagrid followed, casting worried glances between Harry and the small army of skeletal creatures trailing them. Harry, Hagrid said carefully, where'd ya learn to do this? This magic with bones and such? The Thestrals taught me, Harry replied. And the ghosts? Thestrals? Blimey, Harry, how can ya even see Thestrals? I watched my mother die, Harry said matter-of-factly. I remember the green light. Her screaming. Hagrid wiped a tear from his eye. Yeah, shouldn't remember that. Yeah, we're just a baby. Death marks you, Harry said, using Agnes's words. Once marked, you see what others can't. They reached the forest edge. Harry whistled, a strange, hollow sound, and the lead Thestral emerged from the trees. Hagrid gasped. Beautiful, isn't she? Harry said, stroking the Thestral's bony neck. Yeah, Hagrid agreed, surprise evident in his voice. Magnificent creatures, Thestrals. Misunderstood, mostly. More Thestrals appeared, forming their familiar semicircle around Harry. The crown glowed brighter, and Harry felt power surging through him. What's that on your head? Hagrid asked suddenly. Some kinda crown. Harry froze. You can see it? Course I can. Glowing silver thing made of, are those bones? Only those who see death can see the crown, Harry said, puzzled. Or those with death magic themselves. Well, I've seen plenty of death, Hagrid said sadly. Comes with caring for creatures. Not all of them make it. Harry nodded, then continued toward the cottage. As they approached, the human skeleton standing guard straightened to attention. Hagrid stopped dead. Harry, what have ya done? Created a sanctuary, Harry answered. When you live with people who hate you, you need somewhere to belong. The ghostly council materialized, Sir Edmund, Agnes, Thomas, and dozens more spirits Harry had befriended over the months. Your Majesty, Sir Edmund bowed. We sense disturbance in your plans. Everything's changed, Harry told them. I'm not 6, I'm 11. And I've been invited to a wizarding school. The ghosts murmured among themselves. But what about Black? Thomas asked. The prison rescue? Sirius. Harry exclaimed. I still need to free him. Hagrid's bushy eyebrows shot up. Sirius Black. The murderer. Harry, stay away from him. He betrayed your parents. He's innocent, Harry insisted. The dead know the truth. What truth? Hagrid demanded. Peter Pettigrew betrayed my parents. He's alive, hiding as a rat with a wizarding family called Weasley. Hagrid staggered backwards. That's impossible. Pettigrew's dead. Black killed him. He faked his death, Harry said. Cut off his own finger, blew up the street, transformed into a rat, and escaped. Sirius was framed. This is madness, Hagrid muttered. We need to get to Dumbledore. Right away. Not until Sirius is free, Harry said firmly. My army is ready. The Thestrals will carry us to Azkaban tonight. Hagrid's expression changed from confused to determined. No, they won't. I can't let ye do this, Harry. Ye're just a child, even if ye are 11, not 6. Breaking into Azkaban. With animated skeletons. It's too dangerous. Harry's eyes narrowed. Are you trying to stop Death's King, Rubius Hagrid? The crown flared. The skeletons moved into defensive positions. The Thestrals pawed the ground nervously. I don't want to fight Harry, Hagrid said softly. But this isn't right. Whatever these spirits have told whatever ye think that crown means, ye need proper guidance. I have guidance, Harry replied. I have an army. And I have the truth. Hagrid reached inside his coat and pulled out a battered pink umbrella. I'm sorry, Harry. Stupefy. Red light shot from the umbrella toward Harry. The crown pulsed, and a wall of bones, assembled from the forest floor, rose to intercept the spell. I don't want to hurt you, Harry warned. But I will free Sirius. Hagrid looked torn. Harry, listen to me. If there's even a chance Black is innocent, there are proper channels. Dumbledore would help. Breaking into Azkaban will just make a criminal too. Harry hesitated. The mention of proper channels gave him pause. Would Dumbledore really help? The same Dumbledore who left me with the Dursleys for 11 years. He had his reasons, Hagrid defended. Powerful protection spells, tied to your aunt's blood. Protection from what? The only danger I faced was from them. Agnes drifted forward. The boy is right to be suspicious, Giant. But perhaps there is wisdom in caution. Hagrid jumped at being addressed by the ghost. Who are you? Agnes Whitmore. In life, executed for witchcraft. In death, advisor to Death's King. She turned to Harry. Sire, perhaps we've been too hasty. If you truly are 11, not 6, you have more time than we thought. Rushing to Azkaban tonight might jeopardize your new opportunity. Harry considered this. But Sirius has suffered 5 more years than I realized. 5 more years of torture for a crime he didn't commit. And a few more weeks won't change that significantly, Sir Edmund pointed out. Learn what you can at this Hogwarts. Build your power. Then free Black with certainty of success. Harry struggled with the decision. His instinct was to act immediately, to right the wrong done to Sirius. But his ghostly advisors counseled patience, and even Hagrid, though shocked by Harry's abilities, seemed genuinely concerned for his welfare. Fine, Harry finally said. I'll go to Hogwarts. But I'm not abandoning Sirius. And I'm not giving up my powers. Hagrid lowered his umbrella with visible relief. That's reasonable, Harry. And if there's any truth to what Yerry's saying about Black's innocence, I'll help bring it to Dumbledore. Harry turned to his assembled forces, ghostly advisors, skeletal soldiers, Thestral allies. This isn't goodbye, he told them. I'll return when I can. Until then, maintain our sanctuary. Continue training. Be ready when I call. The ghosts bowed. The skeletons saluted. The Thestrals knelt in respect. "And Rattle comes with me," Harry added, as the raccoon skeleton climbed onto his shoulder. Hagrid looked like he wanted to object but thought better of it. "Hogwarts has seen stranger familiars, I suppose." As they prepared to leave, Thomas approached Harry one last time. "Remember what you are, Your Majesty," he said softly. "At Hogwarts, they'll try to mold you into their kind of wizard. But you are more. You are Death's King." Harry touched the crown, still visible to him though Hagrid saw it clearly too. "I won't forget," he promised. "Death crowded me at 5, and I'll rule what others fear." Together, Harry and Hagrid left the forest, an 11-year-old wizard with powers even the magical world would struggle to understand, and a half-giant who'd come expecting to find an ordinary boy but discovered a king instead. Behind them, Thestrals watched from the tree line. Skeletal guardians returned to their positions. Ghosts faded into the night. All waiting for their king's return. And in Azkaban prison, Sirius Black dreamed of a boy with a crown of bones who promised freedom. Chapter 2, The Living and the Dead. Harry stared out the window of the leaky cauldron, watching London wake up. Rain pattered against the glass, distorting the view of Muggle commuters rushing by with umbrellas and raincoats. None of them glanced at the shabby pub squeezed between a bookshop and record store. None of them could see it. Rattle perched on the windowsill beside him, bone tail twitching occasionally when someone passed too close to the window. "Stay hidden when we go out," Harry murmured to the skeleton. "I don't think Wizard London is ready for you yet. Last night had been a whirlwind." After leaving the forest sanctuary, Hagrid had brought him to this inn at the edge of the wizarding world. The giant had explained about Harry's fame, how he'd somehow defeated the dark wizard Voldemort as a baby, earning the title, Boy Who Lived. "Load of rubbish," Harry had told Hagrid. "I didn't do anything. My mother's sacrifice protected me." Hagrid had looked startled by this insight. "How'd you know that?" "The dead talk," Harry had replied simply. Now, waiting for Hagrid to return from some errand, Harry reflected on everything he'd learned. 11 years old, not 6. Famous in a world he'd never known existed. And supposedly wealthy, according to Hagrid, his parents had left him gold in a place called Gringotts. A knock at his door interrupted these thoughts. "Harry? Yeah, decent?" Hagrid's voice boomed from the hallway. "Come in." Hagrid squeezed through the doorway, clutching a small package. "Got ya something? Shoulda done it last night, but with everything that happened." He held out the package. "Happy birthday, Harry." Inside was a small cake with green icing, a replacement for the one that had been forgotten in the chaos at Privet Drive. "Thanks, Hagrid," Harry said, genuinely touched. "Listen, Harry," Hagrid began awkwardly, sitting on the bed which creaked alarmingly under his weight. "About last night, what ya can do with them bones and spirits, it's not exactly, well, it's the kind of magic most wizards find troubling." Harry's expression hardened. "Necromancy, you mean?" "Yeah, know the word then." "My advisors told me how wizards view death magic," Harry said. "They fear what they don't understand." Hagrid sighed. "It's not that simple. There's dark history there. Wizards who've done terrible things using magic like yours." He studied Harry's face. "But I can see Yerry not like them. Just, maybe keep the skeleton creatures and such private, at least until folks get to know ya proper." Harry nodded, though he had no intention of hiding his true nature indefinitely. "What's our plan today?" "Gringotts first, Wizarding Bank. Then get your school supplies." Hagrid brightened. "Yell love Diagon Alley." An hour later, Harry stepped through the magical brick entrance into the hidden shopping district and immediately felt the difference. Privet Drive had been sterile, lifeless. The cottage sanctuary had been saturated with death's energy. But Diagon Alley, it pulsed with life magic, vibrant and chaotic. The crown on Harry's head, invisible to most shoppers, hummed with an almost uncomfortable frequency, as though life and death magic were competing wavelengths. "You all right?" Hagrid asked, noticing Harry's discomfort. "Fine. Just adjusting." They made their way to Gringotts, a towering white marble building guarded by creatures Hagrid identified as goblins. As they passed the guards, Harry felt something unexpected, a connection. The goblins' eyes widened as they looked at him, gazes fixed not on his scar but on his crown. "They can see it," Harry whispered to Hagrid. "See what?" "Oh, that crown thing. Goblins are connected to deep magic. Not surprising they notice." Inside, the bank manager, a goblin named Griphook, actually bowed to Harry. "Death's chosen," he murmured in greeting. "Gringotts has awaited your return." Hagrid looked bewildered. "His return? Harry's never been here before." Griphook smiled, showing pointed teeth. "Not in this lifetime, perhaps." The trip to Harry's vault revealed more gold than he'd imagined. As they rode the cart through the underground tunnels, Harry noticed skeletons embedded in the walls, ancient remains of those who'd attempted to rob the bank. "Are they part of your security?" he asked Griphook. "Indeed," the goblin replied. "Though perhaps you could make them more active, if you wished." Hagrid looked alarmed. "That won't be necessary." "Right, Harry?" Harry just smiled. After collecting gold from his vault, they visited a high-security vault where Hagrid removed a small, grubby package. "Hogwarts business," he explained secretively. "For Dumbledore." Harry sensed something odd about the package, not dead, but not fully alive either. Like a dormant seed waiting for proper conditions to grow. Back in Diagon Alley, they began shopping for school supplies. At Madame Malkin's robe shop, Harry met another Hogwarts student, a pale, pointy-faced boy with white blonde hair. "Hogwarts too," the boy drawled as they stood being fitted for robes. "Yes," Harry replied, studying him. The boy had no darkness about him yet, just the beginning wisps of prejudice, like green shoots that could grow into poisonous plants or be pruned before taking root. "My father's next door buying books, and mother's up the street looking at wands," the boy said. "Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one anyway, and I'll smuggle it in somehow." Harry was reminded forcefully of Dudley. "Have you got your own broom?" the boy went on. "No. Play Quidditch at all?" "No," Harry said, growing bored. "I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play for my house, and I must say, I agree." "Know what house you'll be in yet?" "No," Harry said again, more firmly. "Well, no one really knows until they get there, do they? But I know I'll be in Slytherin, all our family have been. Imagine being in Hufflepuff. I think I'd leave, wouldn't you?" Harry felt rattle shift irritably in his pocket. "I'd take loyal friends over ambitious ones any day," he replied coolly. The boy looked surprised, then defensive. "Well, what would you know about it? Who are your parents, anyway?" "Dead," Harry said flatly. The boy flushed slightly. "Sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "But they were our kind, weren't they? They were witch and wizard, if that's what you mean. I really don't think they should let the other sort in, do you? They're just not the same, they've never been brought up to know our ways. Some of them have never even heard of Hogwarts until they get the letter, imagine." Harry's patience wore thin. The crown warmed against his temples, and shadows in the shop corners deepened. "Some of the greatest witches and wizards came from non-magical families," Harry said, thinking of Agnes. "Magic chooses based on worth, not bloodlines." Before the boy could respond, Madame Malkin announced Harry's robes were done. Outside, Harry found Hagrid waiting with ice cream. "Who was that kid?" Harry asked as they continued shopping. "Sounds like Draco Malfoy. His father's got a reputation, followed you-know-who during the war. Claimed he was bewitched afterward." Load of dung, if ya ask me. Their next stop was Flourish and Blots for school books. Harry immediately sought out additional titles: History of Necromancy, Death's Dominion, Spirits and Spectres, Advanced Communications. Hagrid gently steered him away. Those aren't appropriate for your age, Harry. I'm already practicing that magic, Harry pointed out. All the more reason to get proper education in the basics first, Hagrid insisted. Harry relented outwardly, but made a mental note to find these books another way. At the apothecary, Harry felt immediately comfortable among the preserved animal parts and dried plants. The shopkeeper gave him an appraising look. You have an affinity for these ingredients, young man. Potion-making talent, perhaps? Something like that, Harry replied, examining a jar of bat spleens with interest. Their final stop was Ollivander's wand shop. The moment Harry entered the dusty store, he felt the ancient presence of the wand maker before seeing him. Good afternoon, said a soft voice. An old man stepped from the shadows, pale eyes shining like moons. Hello, said Harry. Ah yes, said the man. Yes, yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon, Harry Potter. He peered closer. You have your mother's eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in here herself, buying her first wand. 10¼ inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work. Ollivander moved closer, and Harry noticed something strange. The wand-maker's eyes didn't focus on his scar, but on his crown. I haven't seen one of those in centuries, Ollivander whispered. The last wearer came to me in 1637. Hagrid shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Ollivander, we're here for Harry's wand. Of course, of course. Ollivander pulled out a measuring tape and began taking measurements. Every Ollivander wand has a core of a powerful magical substance, Mr. Potter. We use unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and the heartstrings of dragons. No two Ollivander wands are the same, just as no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same. The wand maker began pulling boxes from shelves, having Harry try wand after wand. None felt right. The pile of rejected wands grew. Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, we'll find the perfect match here somewhere. Ollivander paused, considering Harry thoughtfully. I wonder. He disappeared into the back of the shop and returned with a dusty black box. Holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. Harry took the wand. Immediate warmth spread through his fingers. He raised it above his head and brought it swishing down. Gold and silver sparks shot from the end, illuminating the shop with dancing light. But something else happened too. The shadows in the corners of the shop coalesced, forming brief skeletal shapes before dissipating. Ollivander clapped his hands. Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed, oh, very good. Well, 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 how curious, how very curious. What's curious? Harry asked. I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand, gave another feather, just one other. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for this wand when its brother, why, its brother gave you that scar. Harry touched his forehead. Voldemort's wand had the same core. Do not speak his name. Ollivander whispered. But yes, 13½ inches. You. Powerful wand, very powerful, and in the wrong hands. Well, if I'd known what that wand was going out into the world to do. He fixed Harry with a pale stare. But perhaps it's fitting. Death chose you both, in different ways. He glanced at the crown again. You will do great things, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great. Harry paid 7 gold galleons for his wand, and Ollivander bowed them from his shop. Their shopping complete, Hagrid took Harry to the magical menagerie. Thought ya might want a proper pet, Hagrid explained. An owl would be useful, carry your mail and everything. Harry selected a beautiful snowy owl, knowing immediately she was special, more intelligent than the other birds, with a regal bearing that reminded him of Sir Edmund. I'll call her Hedwig, he decided, remembering a name from one of his history books. Later, back at the Leaky Cauldron, Hagrid helped Harry prepare for the journey to Hogwarts. Got your ticket for the Hogwarts Express. 1st September, King's Cross, it's all on your ticket. Any problems with the Dursleys, send me a letter with Hedwig. I'm not going back to the Dursleys, Harry said firmly. Hagrid looked troubled. Harry, yeah, have to. Just for the summer. Dumbledore was very specific, they lied to me about my age for years, Hagrid. They've starved and beaten me. I'm not going back. Where would ye go? Ye're too young to be on your own. Harry thought of his forest sanctuary. Of Sirius, still imprisoned. I have places. And people who actually care about me. Hagrid sighed heavily. We'll talk to Dumbledore when term starts. But for now, ye need somewhere safe for August. Harry reluctantly agreed to return to Privet Drive for the remaining month before school, but with conditions: proper food, no locks on doors, and no chores. I'll have a word with them Dursleys, Hagrid promised darkly. When Hagrid left him at Privet Drive the next day, the Dursleys were pale with fear. Vernon's face purpled when he saw a rattle peek out of Harry's pocket, but a meaningful look from Hagrid silenced any protest. I'll pick ya up September 1st, Hagrid told Harry. Behave yourself, and try not to animate too many skeletons, he added in a whisper. The moment Hagrid departed, Harry marched up to Dudley's second bedroom, which Vernon hastily offered as always meant to be yours. I'll be out most days, Harry informed the Dursleys coldly. I don't want to be disturbed. Now see here, boy, Vernon began, but froze when shadows in the hallway deepened and took form. Skeletal mice scurried around Harry's feet. You don't want to finish that sentence, Harry said quietly. Vernon backed away, face ashen. That night, Harry slipped out to Whittaker's woods. The Thestrals greeted him eagerly at the forest edge, and his ghostly counsel awaited at the cottage. You've been gone only 2 days, yet you seem changed, Sir Edmund observed. I learned I'm older than I thought, Harry explained. And famous in the wizarding world. He recounted everything: Diagon Alley, his wand, the connection to Voldemort, the goblin's recognition of his crown. This complicates our plans for Black's rescue, Agnes said thoughtfully. If you're being watched. I still intend to free him, Harry insisted. But we need a new approach. They strategized into the night. Direct assault on Azkaban seemed increasingly risky, too many witnesses, too much chance of Harry's involvement being discovered before he even started at Hogwarts. What if we don't break him out? Harry suggested finally. What if he escapes on his own? Sir Edmund stroked his ghostly beard. Elaborate. I can still reach him in dreams. I can show him where the guards are weakest, when the Dementors are furthest away. And I can have the Thestrals meet him once he's out. It could work, Thomas agreed. But he'd need a way past those Dementor creatures. That's where my new money helps, Harry smiled. I can buy what he needs and get it to him. Over the next weeks, Harry divided his time between preparations. By day, he studied his school books, absorbing magical theory with Agnes's help. By night, he trained his undead forces and refined the escape plan. Through dream contact, Sirius provided details of Azkaban's layout and security. Harry sent Rattle on reconnaissance missions to the coast nearest the prison, where the skeletal raccoon established a safe house in an abandoned fisherman's hut. Using Owl Order catalogs, Harry purchased items needed for the escape: invisibility potion ingredients, enchanted lock picks, waterproof gear, healing supplies. The packages, addressed to Padfoot, Sirius's old nickname, were delivered by Hedwig to the coastal safe house. 2 weeks before September 1st, everything was ready. That night, Harry traveled to his sanctuary for the crucial phase. Are you sure about this? Agnes asked. It's dangerous magic you're attempting. Harry nodded grimly. Sirius has waited long enough. Standing in the center of the clearing, Harry concentrated on his connection to death. The crown glowed brighter than ever as he focused on Azkaban, on penetrating the veil between life and death just enough to create a temporary pathway. With blood freely given, I forged this link, Harry intoned, pricking his finger. The droplet of blood floated before him, glowing silver. With crown and will, I opened the way, he continued. The blood expanded into a misty portal, through which he could dimly see a prison cell. Sirius Black, I call to you. Not in dream, but in spirit. Come to my voice, follow my light. Inside the cell, Sirius jerked awake. Unlike previous dream contacts, he was fully conscious, staring in disbelief at the glowing portal. Harry, he whispered. I can't maintain this long, Harry said, strain evident in his voice. Listen carefully. Tomorrow night, the Dementors will be called away for an hour, a distraction I've arranged. The potion and tools you need are in the southeast guard post. A skeleton raccoon will guide you. Thestrals will meet you at the coast. You've thought of everything, Sirius said, voice choked with emotion. James would be so proud. We'll meet soon, Harry promised as the portal began to flicker. Freedom is coming. The connection broke. Harry collapsed to his knees, exhausted but triumphant. The ghostly council gathered around him. Rest now, Sir Edmund advised. You've done all you can. The rest is up to Black. The next day, Harry could hardly concentrate. He paced his room at Privet Drive, waiting for news. Hedwig had strict instructions to find him the moment Sirius reached the safe house. Night fell. No word came. Harry barely slept, fearing the worst. Had Sirius been caught? Had the distraction failed? The Dementors were supposed to be drawn away by a massive gathering of spirits at the opposite end of the island, ghosts Harry had contacted through his growing network of dead allies. Morning dawned. Still nothing. By afternoon, Harry's nerves were frayed. He'd begun planning a rescue mission when Hedwig finally swooped through his window, a small scrap of parchment tied to her leg. 2 words, Padfoot free. Harry sagged with relief. He immediately sent Hedwig back with instructions to guide Sirius to the cottage that night. Dusk had just fallen when Harry arrived at his sanctuary. The clearing was prepared, food, clean clothes, healing potions laid out in the cottage. Harry paced anxiously until he heard wing beats. The lead Thestral landed in the clearing, and from its back slid a gaunt, ragged man, nearly unrecognizable from the handsome youth in Harry's parents' wedding photo, but unmistakably Sirius Black. Sirius! Harry rushed forward as the man stumbled to his feet. Sirius stared at Harry, taking in every detail of his appearance. You look so much like James, he rasped. But those eyes. Lily's eyes. They embraced, Harry's first real hug that he could remember. Sirius felt fragile, all bones and sallow skin, but his grip was surprisingly strong. I can't believe you did it, Sirius said, voice breaking. 11 years old, and you broke me out of Azkaban. Technically, you escaped on your own, Harry grinned. With a little help from Death's King. Sirius studied the crown on Harry's head. I still can't quite believe that part. They moved into the cottage, where Sirius devoured the prepared food and changed into clean robes. Color gradually returned to his face as he recounted his escape. The distraction was perfect. All the Dementors drawn to the North Tower by whatever you conjured there. Your little bone friend, Rattle, Harry supplied. Led me straight to the guard post where you'd hidden the supplies. The invisibility potion worked perfectly. Then it was just swimming to shore where the Thestrals found me. Sirius shook his head in wonder. A plan worthy of your father. What happens now? Harry asked. The Ministry will be looking for you. Sirius's face darkened. I need to find Pettigrew. He's the key to proving my innocence. You said he's hiding with the Weasleys? As a rat? Last I heard. He's an animagus, can transform into a rat missing a toe, where he cut off his finger. Harry thought of the red-haired family he'd glimpsed in Diagon Alley. I start Hogwarts in 10 days. If Pettigrew is with a wizarding family, their children might attend too. It's possible, Sirius agreed. But Harry, you can't confront him yourself. He's dangerous, he killed 13 people with a single curse. I won't be alone, Harry said, gesturing to Rattle. And I have other resources. They planned through the night. Sirius would remain at the cottage, recovering his strength and protected by Harry's undead guards. Meanwhile, Harry would begin at Hogwarts, watching for signs of Pettigrew while laying groundwork for Sirius's eventual exoneration. I still can't believe the Ministry never gave me a trial, Sirius said bitterly. Barty Crouch just threw me in Azkaban without even checking my wand for the last spells I cast. We'll make it right, Harry promised. And make them pay for what they did to you. The days before September 1st passed quickly. Harry divided his time between Privet Drive, maintaining appearances, studying his textbooks, and visiting the cottage where Sirius grew stronger daily. The two formed a bond that transcended their short acquaintance, a connection built on shared loss and mutual respect. Sirius filled in gaps about Harry's parents, not just their deaths, but their lives. Their talents, hopes, friendships. For the first time, Harry felt he truly knew them. In turn, Harry showed Sirius the full extent of his abilities, commanding the dead, communicating with spirits, even limited control over shadows themselves. It's extraordinary magic, Sirius admitted. But be careful at Hogwarts. Not everyone will understand. I know, Harry said. Hagrid already warned me to keep it quiet. Hagrid's right, for once, Sirius smiled wryly. The wizarding world fears death magic. Historical prejudice, mostly, but with some justification. There have been dark wizards who've twisted necromancy to terrible ends. My magic isn't dark, Harry insisted. Magic itself is neither dark nor light, it's the intent that matters. Sirius placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. Your heart is good, Harry. But others may not see past their preconceptions. The night before Harry was to leave for Hogwarts, he made final arrangements. His skeletal forces would maintain patrols around the cottage. The ghosts would bring news from the wider world. The Thestrals would provide transportation if needed. I've set up communication, Harry told Sirius. Hedwig can carry letters, but for emergencies. He handed Sirius a small bone whistle. Blow this, and I'll know instantly. Clever, Sirius examined the whistle. Your father would have appreciated this craftsmanship. They said their goodbyes with promises to write regularly. As Harry prepared to leave, Sirius called him back. Harry, one more thing. At Hogwarts, watch out for Snape. Who? Severus Snape. Teaches potions. He and your father were enemies at school, and he's likely to transfer that hatred to you. Harry nodded. I'll be careful. And Harry? Sirius's expression softened. Have some fun too. Hogwarts should be more than missions and obligations. Make friends. Play Quidditch. Pull a prank or two. I'll try, Harry promised, though making friends seemed a foreign concept after years of isolation. Morning found Harry waiting for Hagrid, trunk packed with school supplies and a few special additions, a small box of bones for emergency summoning, vials of graveyard soil, and a journal Agnes had helped him enchant for secure communication with his ghostly advisors. Hagrid arrived in a ministry car, looking somewhat uncomfortable in the muggle vehicle. All ready, Harry? He asked cheerfully. Excited for your first day? More than you know, Harry replied, thinking of all he had planned. King's Cross Station bustled with morning commuters. Hagrid led Harry to the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, explaining how to run through the seemingly solid wall. "Good luck, Harry," Hagrid said. "See ya at the feast tonight." Harry took a deep breath and pushed his trolley toward the barrier, breaking into a run as Hagrid had instructed. Instead of crashing, he passed through onto platform 9 3/4, where the gleaming scarlet Hogwarts Express waited amid clouds of steam. Families crowded the platform, parents giving last-minute instructions, younger siblings waving tearful goodbyes, students reuniting with friends. Harry navigated through the chaos, feeling distinctly out of place. He found an empty compartment near the end of the train and heaved his trunk aboard. Settling by the window, he watched the platform activity, Rattle hidden safely in his pocket. Hedwig hooted softly from her cage. The train whistle blew. Doors slammed. With a lurch, the Hogwarts Express began pulling away from the station. Harry's compartment door slid open, and a tall, gangly, red-haired boy peered in. "Anyone sitting there?" he asked, pointing to the seat opposite Harry. "Everywhere else is full." "Go ahead," Harry replied, studying the boy. He had freckles, a long nose, and wore shabby robes that seemed slightly too short for him. "A Weasley, perhaps?" "I'm Ron, by the way." "Ron Weasley." Harry's pulse quickened. "Harry Potter." Ron's eyes widened. "Are you really? Do you have the, you know?" He pointed at Harry's forehead. Harry lifted his fringe, showing the lightning-shaped scar. "Wicked," Ron breathed, then caught himself. "Sorry for staring. It's just, you're famous." "So I'm told," Harry said dryly. "Your family is all wizards, right?" Ron nodded. "Yeah, all of us. Well, except Mum's second cousin who's an accountant, but we don't talk about him." "Any pets?" Harry asked, trying to sound casual. "I've got Scabbers." Ron pulled a fat gray rat from his pocket. "He's useless, hardly ever wakes up. Percy got an owl from my dad for being made prefect, but they couldn't af." He stopped, ears turning red. Harry barely heard, focused entirely on the rat. It was missing a toe on its front paw. Pettigrew. Harry's crown warmed against his temples. Shadows in the compartment deepened slightly. Rattle stirred in Harry's pocket, sensing his sudden tension. "What kind of magic do you know already?" Harry asked, forcing his voice to remain steady while his mind raced. Ron launched into a story about his brothers teaching him a supposed spell to turn his rat yellow. Harry half listened, planning. He couldn't confront Pettigrew here, too public, too risky. But now he knew exactly where the traitor was hiding. Their conversation was interrupted when the compartment door slid open again. A round-faced boy peered in tearfully. "Sorry, but have you seen a toad at all?" When they shook their heads, he wailed, "I've lost him. He keeps getting away from me." "He'll turn up," Harry said. "Yes," the boy said miserably. "Well, if you see him." He left, but returned moments later with a girl already wearing her Hogwarts robes. She had bushy brown hair and rather large front teeth. "Has anyone seen a toad?" "Neville's lost one," she said in a bossy voice. "We've already told him we haven't seen it," Ron replied, but the girl wasn't listening. She was staring at Harry with an odd expression. "What's that on your head?" she asked suddenly. Harry froze. "What do you mean?" "That silver, crown thing. It's faint, but definitely there." Ron looked between them in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "There's nothing on his head." The girl ignored him, stepping closer to Harry. "It looks like it's made of, are those bones?" Harry's mind raced. First Hagrid, then the goblins, now this girl, people who shouldn't be able to see the crown. What connected them? "You can see death," Harry said quietly. The girl blinked rapidly. "What? I don't understand." "Someone died in front of you. That's the only way you could see it." Her face paled. My grandmother. Last year. I was holding her hand when she swallowed hard. How did you know? I'm Hermione Granger, by the way, she added before Harry could respond. And you are? I'm Ron Weasley, Ron muttered. Harry Potter, said Harry. Are you really? Said Hermione. I know all about you, of course. I got a few extra books for background reading, and you're in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Most of which is speculation, Harry said. I was 15 months old. Nobody asked me what happened. Hermione looked taken aback. Well, I suppose that's true. The books might not be entirely accurate. She seemed to find this possibility genuinely distressing. Anyway, we'd better go look for Neville's toad, she said finally. You two had better change into your robes. I expect we'll be arriving soon. After she left, Ron stared at Harry. What was that about something on your head? No idea, Harry lied. Maybe she was seeing things. Ron seemed satisfied with this explanation, but Harry's mind whirled with implications. Hermione Granger could see the crown. She'd witnessed death. And she seemed intensely curious, potentially an ally or a risk, depending on how she reacted to his abilities. The remainder of the journey passed quickly. Ron told Harry about his large family, 5 older brothers and a younger sister, and about Quidditch, which Harry pretended to know nothing about. When the food trolley came by, Harry bought a selection of everything, partly to experience wizard sweets, partly to curry favor with Ron. It worked. The redhead warmed to him considerably as they shared chocolate frogs and Bertie Bott's every flavor beans. As evening fell, the train slowed. A voice echoed through the train, "We will be reaching Hogwarts in 5 minutes' time. Please leave your luggage on the train, it will be taken to the school separately." Harry's stomach lurched with nervous anticipation. Not fear exactly, after communing with the dead and breaking a prisoner out of Azkaban, school hardly seemed intimidating, but awareness that he was stepping into a new chapter of his life. The train stopped at a tiny, dark platform. Students poured out into the cool night air. Hagrid's familiar voice boomed over the crowd, "Fur's years. Fur's years over here." Following Hagrid, the first years made their way down a steep, narrow path to the edge of a great black lake. Across its dark surface, perched atop a mountain, stood Hogwarts Castle, windows sparkling in the night sky, towers and turrets reaching toward the stars. "No more and 4 to a boat," Hagrid called, pointing to a fleet of small boats bobbing in the water. Harry and Ron were joined in their boat by Hermione and Neville. As they glided across the lake, Harry noticed something strange, ripples in the water following their boat, as though invisible fingers trailed the surface. "What's causing that?" Hermione whispered, watching the same phenomenon. "Lake spirits," Harry replied quietly. "Drawn to certain energies." Hermione's eyes widened. "Is it because of that crown?" Harry nodded slightly. "Don't mention it to anyone else. Not everyone can see it, and those who can't wouldn't understand." "Why can I see it when Ron can't?" "Death's touch marks you," Harry explained softly. "When you watched your grandmother die, it opened your perception." Hermione fell silent, processing this information as the boats reached the underground harbor beneath the castle. They climbed a passageway in the rock, emerging onto smooth, damp grass in the shadow of the castle. Hagrid led them up stone steps to massive oak front doors, where he knocked 3 times. The doors swung open immediately. A tall, black-haired witch in emerald green robes stood there, her stern face surveying the first years. "The Fur's years, Professor McGonagall," said Hagrid. "Thank you, Hagrid. I will take them from here." She led them through the entrance hall, so large Harry's entire cottage sanctuary could have fit inside it, to a small chamber off the hall. There, she explained about the sorting ceremony and the 4 houses, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. As McGonagall left to prepare for their entrance, Harry felt a chill that had nothing to do with the castle's stone walls. The shadows around him writhed subtly, responding to his presence. And then he saw them, ghostly figures drifting through the walls, dozens of Hogwarts spirits attracted to Death's King in their midst. "Ghosts," gasped one of the first years as the spirits noticed the students. "New students," said a ghost wearing a ruff and tights. "About to be sorted, I suppose." The ghost floated closer to Harry, then stopped abruptly, eyes widening. "It cannot be," he whispered. "What is it, Nick?" asked a portly ghost monk. "The crown," nearly headless Nick breathed. "After all these centuries." The ghosts bowed as one, a gesture that did not go unnoticed by the bewildered first years. "What's happening?" Ron hissed. "Why are they bowing?" Before Harry could fabricate an explanation, Professor McGonagall returned. "Move along now," she said sharply to the ghosts. "The sorting ceremony's about to start." One by one, the ghosts floated away, but not before each gave Harry another small bow. Hermione watched this exchange with intense curiosity. McGonagall led the first years into the Great Hall, a magnificent space lit by thousands of floating candles. For long tables were filled with students, golden plates and goblets gleaming in the candlelight. At the top of the hall stood another long table where the teachers sat. McGonagall placed a four-legged stool before the first years. On top of the stool, she put a pointed wizard's hat, patched, frayed, and extremely dirty. For a moment, there was silence. Then the hat twitched. A rip near the brim opened wide like a mouth, and the hat began to sing about the 4 Hogwarts houses and its role in sorting students. When it finished, the hall burst into applause. McGonagall stepped forward with a long roll of parchment. "When I call your name, you will put on the hat and sit on the stool to be sorted," she said. "Abbott, Hannah." One by one, students were called forward and sorted. Granger, Hermione, became a Gryffindor, as did Neville Longbottom. Draco Malfoy, the pale boy from the robe shop, went to Slytherin. Finally, McGonagall called, "Potter, Harry." Whispers broke out across the hall as Harry stepped forward. "Potter," did she say? "The Harry Potter?" The last thing Harry saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the hall full of people craning to get a good look at him. Then he was staring at the black inside of the hat. Said a small voice in his ear. "Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a thirst to prove yourself, but what's this?" The voice changed, becoming more formal, almost reverential. "Death's King walks among us once more. I have not encountered your like since Ignotus Peverell stood where you now stand. You can see the crown?" Harry thought. "I see into your mind, young Majesty. I see the crown and all it represents." The hat paused. "Such power you command already, and such purpose. But where to put you? Where I can best accomplish my goals," Harry thought. "Where I can find allies. Your goals include justice for your godfather. Vengeance against those who betrayed your parents. Protection for the innocent. Ambitious goals requiring cunning, yet pursued with courage and loyalty to those you love." The hat seemed to sigh. "You would excel in any house, Death's King. You have Slytherin's ambition, Ravenclaw's intelligence, Hufflepuff's loyalty, and Gryffindor's courage. Then choose," Harry urged. After another long pause, the hat finally spoke, "Better be Gryffindor." Harry heard the hat shout the last word to the entire hall. He removed it and walked toward the Gryffindor table, where the loudest cheers erupted. Percy Weasley, Ron's prefect brother, got up and shook his hand vigorously, while the Weasley twins yelled, "We got Potter! We got Potter!" As Harry sat down, he noticed the ghost in the rough, nearly headless Nick, had saved him a seat. The ghost bowed again slightly. "An honor, Your Majesty," Nick whispered. "We will speak later." Harry nodded, watching as the sorting continued. Ron, looking pale green, was also placed in Gryffindor and collapsed into the chair next to Harry with visible relief. When the last student was sorted, Albus Dumbledore got to his feet. He was beaming at the students, arms opened wide. "Welcome," he said. "Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I would like to say a few words, nitwit. Blubber. Oddment. Tweak. Thank you." Food appeared on the golden plates, and the feast began. Harry helped himself generously, realizing how hungry he was after the long day. "That does look good," said nearly headless Nick watchfully as Harry cut up his steak. "Can't you?" Harry began. "I haven't eaten for nearly 500 years, said the ghost. "Don't need to, of course, but one does miss it." Harry lowered his voice. "How many of Hogwarts ghosts can see what you saw?" "All of us," Nick replied quietly. "Word has spread already through the castle. The Bloody Baron is particularly interested in making your acquaintance. It's been centuries since Death's Chosen walked these halls." "I'd prefer to keep it quiet," Harry said. "At least until I understand the political landscape here." Nick nodded sagely. "Wise, your majesty. Not all would understand. The living fear death's mysteries." He glanced toward the high table. "Some more than others." Following Nick's gaze, Harry examined the teachers. Hagrid was drinking deeply from his goblet. Professor McGonagall was talking to Dumbledore. A nervous-looking young man in a purple turban was speaking with a hook-nosed, greasy-haired man. The hook-nosed teacher looked past the turbaned man straight into Harry's eyes, and a sharp, hot pain shot across the scar on Harry's forehead. "Ouch!" Harry clapped a hand to his head. "What is it?" asked Percy. "Nothing," Harry lied. "Who's that teacher talking to the man with the turban?" "That's Professor Snape. He teaches potions, but he doesn't want to. Everyone knows he's after the defense against the dark arts job. The other one is Professor Quirrell, who got the defense position this year. Used to teach Muggle studies. Brilliant mind, but had a bad encounter with vampires in Romania. Never been the same since." Harry watched Snape for a moment longer, recalling Sirius's warning. But his attention was increasingly drawn to Quirrell. Something felt wrong about the turbaned professor, an unnatural aura that made Harry's crown tingle uncomfortably. After dinner, Dumbledore gave a few start-of-term notices, warnings about the Forbidden Forest, a corridor on the 3rd floor that was out of bounds, and a reminder that magic wasn't permitted in corridors between classes. "And now, before we go to bed, let us sing the school song," Dumbledore cried, flicking his wand to produce a golden ribbon that twisted into lyrics. The school bellowed the song, everyone finishing at different times. Finally, only the Weasley twins were left singing along to a very slow funeral march. Dumbledore conducted their last few lines with his wand, and when they finished, he clapped loudest of all. "Ah, music," he said, wiping his eyes. "A magic beyond all we do here. And now, bedtime. Off you trot." The Gryffindor first years followed Percy through the chattering crowds, out of the Great Hall, and up the marble staircase. Harry's legs felt like lead after the long day and rich food. He was too sleepy to be surprised when the people in the portraits whispered and pointed as they passed, or when Percy led them through doorways hidden behind sliding panels and hanging tapestries. They climbed more staircases until they reached a portrait of a very fat woman in a pink silk dress. "Password?" she asked. "Caput Draconis," said Percy, and the portrait swung forward to reveal a round hole in the wall. They all scrambled through it into the Gryffindor common room, a cozy, round room full of squashy armchairs. Percy directed the girls through one door to their dormitory and the boys through another. At the top of a spiral staircase, they found their beds, 5 four-posters hung with deep red, velvet curtains. Their trunks had already been brought up. Too tired for much conversation, they pulled on their pajamas and fell into bed. "Great food, isn't it?" Ron muttered through the curtains. Get off, Scabbers. He's chewing my sheets. Harry could hardly sleep, despite his exhaustion. Pettigrew was just across the room, disguised as Ron's pet rat. The traitor who had betrayed his parents, framed Sirius, and killed 13 innocent people was sleeping on Ron's bed. It took all Harry's willpower not to command Rattle to capture the rat right then. But he knew he needed to be careful, to gather evidence, to plan the revelation in a way that would guarantee Sirius's exoneration. Eventually, Harry drifted into uneasy sleep, dreaming of dungeons and trapdoors, Thestrals and skeletons, and Professor Quirrell's turban telling him he belonged in Slytherin while Pettigrew laughed in the background. Harry's first week at Hogwarts passed in a whirlwind of classes, corridors, and whispers. Everywhere he went, students pointed and stared. There, look. Where? Next to the tall kid with the red hair. Wearing the glasses. Did you see his face? Did you see his scar? Finding his way through the castle proved challenging, with its 142 staircases, moving doors, and walls pretending to be doors. Peeves the poltergeist delighted in dropping wastepaper baskets on first-years' heads and pelting them with chalk, until he met Harry. Their first encounter occurred when Peeves was preparing to drop water balloons on a group of Hufflepuffs. "Peeves," Harry said quietly, stepping away from his fellow Gryffindors. The poltergeist turned, balloon in hand. "Potty wee Potter." "What fun," his words died as he noticed the crown. Peeves immediately dropped the balloons harmlessly to the floor and bowed so low his head passed through it. "Your Majesty," he said in a suddenly respectful voice that drew startled looks from nearby students. Peeves lives to serve. After that, Peeves became Harry's unlikely ally, creating diversions when needed and reporting castle gossip. The other students couldn't understand why the troublemaking poltergeist suddenly treated Harry Potter with reverence. Classes themselves presented varying challenges. Astronomy involved studying night skies through telescopes. Herbology took place in the greenhouses behind the castle. History of magic, taught by a ghost named Professor Binns, proved to be the most boring subject, though Binns, like all Hogwarts ghosts, gave Harry small bows when no one was looking. Professor Flitwick, the charms teacher, squeaked and toppled off his stack of books the first time he read Harry's name during roll call. Professor McGonagall, who taught Transfiguration, was strict and clever, immediately impressing upon them the complexity and danger of her subject. "Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts," she warned. "Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back." She then changed her desk into a pig and back again. Harry found the display interesting but preferred his own magic, bringing dead things to life rather than changing one living thing into another. Defense against the dark arts disappointed everyone. Professor Quirrell's classroom smelled strongly of garlic, which he claimed warded off a Romanian vampire he feared would come after him. His turban, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a thank you for getting rid of a troublesome zombie. Harry didn't believe this story for a moment, particularly since he could detect no death magic associated with zombies around Quirrell. Instead, the professor emanated a strange duality that made Harry's crown prickle uncomfortably. Whenever Quirrell turned his back to write on the blackboard, Harry felt an odd sensation, as though something beyond the turban watched him. Friday brought the first potions lesson with Snape. Breakfast conversation in the Great Hall buzzed with rumors about the potions master's treatment of non-Slytherin students. "Wish McGonagall favored us," said Ron. Professor McGonagall had given them a huge pile of homework the day before, despite being head of Gryffindor House. Just then, the mail arrived. Hundreds of owls streamed into the Great Hall, circling the tables and dropping letters and packages. Harry had received a note from Hagrid earlier in the week, inviting him to tea that afternoon. Now Hedwig soared in, dropping a small package before Harry. Inside was a folded parchment from Sirius, enchanted to appear blank to anyone but Harry, recovering well. Ghostly friends keeping me informed. Careful with Snape today, he and your father were enemies, and he never forgives. Watch Quirrell too. Something odd there, according to the forest spirits. Progress on our rat problem. Padfoot Harry penned a quick reply confirming Pettigrew's presence and his plans to gather evidence before making a move. He'd send it with Hedwig later. Potions took place in the dungeons, which were colder than the main castle and creepier, with pickled animals floating in glass jars around the walls. Harry felt oddly comfortable among these preserved specimens, remnants of once living creatures that resonated with his own connection to death. Snape started class with roll call, pausing at Harry's name. "Ah, yes," he said softly, "Harry Potter. Our new celebrity." Draco Malfoy and his friends Crabbe and Goyle sniggered behind their hands. Snape finished calling names and looked up at the class. "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making," he began in barely more than a whisper. "As there is little foolish wand waving here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic. I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind, and snaring the senses. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stopper death, if you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach." Harry's interest peaked at stopper death. He leaned forward slightly, genuinely curious despite Snape's evident dislike. "Potter," Snape said suddenly. "What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Harry recalled the passage from his textbook. "The draught of living death, sir. A sleeping potion so powerful it mimics death." Surprise flickered across Snape's face before his expression hardened again. "Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" "The stomach of a goat, sir. It can save you from most poisons." "What is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane?" "They're the same plant, sir. Also called aconite." Snape's eyes narrowed. "Did you memorize the textbook, Potter? Or perhaps you think your celebrity status demands special preparation?" "Neither, sir," Harry replied evenly. "I'm just interested in potions that deal with death and its prevention." Something unreadable crossed Snape's face. "1 point to Gryffindor," he said, so quietly several students looked at each other in confusion. "For adequate preparation." The lesson continued with instructions to brew a simple potion to cure boils. Harry worked methodically, finding the precise measuring and careful preparation satisfying. When Neville somehow managed to melt his cauldron, creating a spreading acid that burned holes in people's shoes, Snape rounded on Harry. "You, Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you?" "That's another point from Gryffindor." Harry bit back a retort, remembering Sirius's warning. As they climbed the steps out of the dungeon an hour later, Ron was outraged on Harry's behalf. "Cheer up," said Ron. "Snape's always taking points off Fred and George. Can I come and meet Hagrid with you?" At 5 to 3, they left the castle and made their way across the grounds to Hagrid's small wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. When Harry knocked, frantic scrabbling and booming barks echoed from inside. Hagrid's voice rang out, "Back, Fong, back." Hagrid's big, hairy face appeared in the crack as he pulled the door open. "Hang on," he said. "Back, Fong." He let them in, struggling to keep a hold on the collar of an enormous black boarhound. The inside was a single room, hams and pheasants hanging from the ceiling, a copper kettle boiling on the open fire, and a massive bed with a patchwork quilt in the corner. "Make yourselves at home," said Hagrid, releasing Fong, who bounded straight at Ron and began licking his ears. "This is Ron," Harry introduced. "Another Weasley, said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. "I spent half me life chasin' your twin brothers away from the forest." Rock cakes nearly broke their teeth, but Harry and Ron pretended to enjoy them as they told Hagrid about their first week of classes. Fong rested his head on Harry's knee, drooling all over his robes. Harry and Ron were delighted to hear Hagrid call Filch that old git, and even more so when he referred to Mrs. Norris as that dusty old furball. And as fair that cat, Mrs. Norris, I'd like to introduce her to Fong sometime. Dia no, every time I go up to the school, she follows me everywhere. Can't get rid of her, Filch puts her up to it. Harry noticed a cutting from the Daily Prophet lying on the table. It reported a break-in at Gringotts on July 31st, his birthday, though nothing had been taken. The vault in question had been emptied earlier that same day. Hagrid, said Harry. That Gringotts break-in happened on my birthday. It might have been happening while we were there. Hagrid didn't meet Harry's eyes, offering him another rock cake instead. Harry remembered the grubby little package Hagrid had removed from Vault 713. Was that what the thieves had been looking for? As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner, Harry's thoughts were divided between the mysterious package, Quirrell's strange aura, and the need to communicate what he'd learned about Pettigrew to Sirius. That night, after everyone in the dormitory was asleep, Harry slipped from his bed. Rattle emerged from hiding, keeping watch while Harry removed his enchanted journal from his trunk. Confirmed Pettigrew identity, Harry wrote. Staying as Rat with Ron Weasley. Missing toe on front paw as expected. Planning evidence gathering, need way to force him back to human form to expose him publicly. The ink faded into the page, replaced moments later with Agnes's neat script, revealing charm exists for Animagi. Sir Edmund researching details. Be patient. Monitor only for now. Black recovering well, spirits keeping him company. Harry smiled at the thought of Sirius chatting with his ghostly counsel. He wrote back, also investigating package moved from Gringotts to Hogwarts. Small, grubby wrapped item, Vault 713. Attempted theft same day. Connected to third floor corridor prohibition. Agnes's response came quickly, interesting. Will consult with spirits who can travel. Update soon. Harry closed the journal, tucking it safely beneath his mattress. Rattle chittered silently, indicating all remained quiet. Across the room, Ron's snores mingled with the soft squeaks of Scabbers/Pettigrew. Soon, Harry whispered to Rattle. Soon we'll have justice for my parents. The skeletal raccoon nodded, returning to its hiding spot as Harry climbed back into bed. The following weeks established patterns. Harry excelled in most classes, particularly potions, despite Snape's evident dislike, defense, though Quirrell taught little of value, and charms. Transfiguration proved more challenging, perhaps because it involved changing the natural state of living things, which ran counter to Harry's affinity for death magic. Flying lessons added an unexpected pleasure. Harry discovered he had a natural talent on a broomstick, leading to his appointment as seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team after a dramatic dive to catch Neville's Remembrall when Malfoy threw it. Professor McGonagall had witnessed the feat and, instead of punishing Harry, arranged for him to join the team. Youngest house player in about a century, she told him. Your father would have been proud. He was an excellent Quidditch player himself. Ron was awestruck by Harry's appointment, while Hermione seemed torn between disapproval of rule-breaking and fascination with Harry himself. She had taken to watching him closely, particularly after witnessing the ghost's unusual deference. One evening in the library, as Harry researched Animagus reversal spells, Hermione cornered him between bookshelves. I know you're hiding something, she said without preamble. The ghosts bow to you. You have that invisible crown only some people can see. And sometimes, she lowered her voice, sometimes I see bones moving around you, like tiny skeletal mice or birds. Harry studied her thoughtfully. Her intelligence and observational skills made her a potential threat, or a valuable ally. What do you know about necromancy? He asked quietly. Hermione's eyes widened. It's considered dark magic. Wizard laws strictly regulate it. And what do you think about it? I don't know enough to judge, she admitted. Most books say it's evil, but they're vague about why. Magic isn't good or evil, Harry said, echoing Sirius's words. Intent matters. Hermione bit her lip, considering. What exactly can you do? Harry glanced around to ensure they were alone, then held out his hand. Shadows pooled in his palm, coalescing into a tiny skeletal bird that fluttered its wings. Control the dead, he said simply. Communicate with spirits. Sense when death is near. To Hermione's credit, she didn't recoil. Instead, she leaned closer, examining the bone construct with scientific curiosity. How? When did this start? When I was 5, or thought I was 5, Harry amended. The Thestrals in the forest crowned me. Called me Death's King. That's why the crown looks like bones, Hermione breathed. But why you? Because I saw my mother die. Because her sacrifice marked me with death's touch. Hermione's expression softened. I'm sorry about your parents. She hesitated. Is this why you've been researching animagus transformations? Does it relate to your abilities? Harry made a split-second decision. What I tell you stays between us. When she nodded, he continued, I'm tracking the man who betrayed my parents to Voldemort. He's hiding as an animagus, a rat. A rat? Hermione's face paled. Not. Scabbers? Harry nodded grimly. But that's Ron's pet. How can you be sure? The dead don't lie. And my godfather, Sirius Black, was framed for his crimes. Sirius Black. Hermione gasped. The mass murderer who escaped Azkaban. Who I helped escape, Harry corrected. He's innocent. Peter Pettigrew faked his death after betraying my parents and killing those muggles. He cut off his own finger, which is why Scabbers is missing a toe, Hermione finished, connecting the dots. But Harry, this is serious. If you're right, we need to tell the professors. Who would believe us without proof? We need to catch Pettigrew in human form. Hermione fell silent, processing everything. Finally, she asked, why tell me? Because you saw the crown. Because you're smart enough to help. Because keeping you in the dark seemed more dangerous than trusting you. She straightened, resolution hardening her features. I'll help. But we do this properly, research, planning, evidence. No reckless confrontations. Harry smiled. Deal. Their alliance proved immediately fruitful. Hermione's research skills complemented Harry's necromantic knowledge. Together they identified the specific spell needed to force an animagus back to human form, the reversal spell, Revelio Veriforma. It's advanced magic, Hermione warned. 4th year level at least. I've managed harder, Harry said with quiet confidence. They practiced in empty classrooms after hours, with Rattle standing guard. Hermione's initial unease around the skeletal raccoon gradually faded as she observed its intelligence and loyalty. It's like having a familiar made of bones, she remarked one evening. Not evil at all, just different. Harry's other Hogwarts relationships developed along varied paths. Ron remained a friendly companion, though Harry maintained distance given Pettigrew's presence. The Weasley twins, Fred and George, adopted Harry as an honorary brother after learning of his Quidditch position, teaching him secret passages and shortcuts throughout the castle. Nearly headless Nick appointed himself Harry's ghostly guide, while the other house ghosts showed him appropriate deference without drawing unwanted attention. Even the Bloody Baron, Slytherin's intimidating ghost, acknowledged Harry with solemn nods when they passed in hallways. Draco Malfoy proved a persistent irritant, challenging Harry to a midnight duel, which Harry suspected was a trap and avoided, and making snide comments about Harry's Quidditch position being charity rather than merit. Ignore him, Hermione advised. He's just jealous. I'm not bothered, Harry replied truthfully. After facing Dementors to free Sirius, Malfoy's petty taunts seemed laughably insignificant. October brought chillier weather and increased Quidditch practice. Oliver Wood, the Gryffindor team captain, worked them hard 3 evenings a week. Harry's natural flying ability quickly developed into skilled precision, his Nimbus 2000 broomstick, a gift from Professor McGonagall, responding to his slightest touch. Meanwhile, Harry maintained regular communication with Sirius through their enchanted journals and Hedwig's deliveries. His godfather had regained much of his health and now helped coordinate information gathering through Harry's network of ghostly spies around the wizarding world. "The Ministry's still hunting me," Sirius wrote in mid-October. "But they're looking in completely wrong places, Ireland and France mostly. Your ghost friends are remarkably well informed. Any progress researching the Gringotts package?" Harry asked. "Some. Several spirits believe it's connected to Nicholas Flamel, an alchemist and Dumbledore's friend. Working to confirm." Harry shared this information with Hermione, who immediately began researching Flamel in the library. Their investigation of the third-floor corridor remained theoretical, neither willing to risk expulsion by exploring it directly without more information. As October drew to a close, anticipation for Halloween filled the castle. Decorations appeared throughout the corridors, carved pumpkins, live bats, and orange streamers that wriggled like snakes. On Halloween morning, Professor Flitwick announced they were ready to start making objects fly in Charms class. Harry partnered with Seamus Finnegan, while Ron was paired with Hermione. Neither looked happy about this arrangement. "Now, don't forget that nice wrist movement we've been practicing," squeaked Professor Flitwick. "Swish and flick, remember, swish and flick. And saying the magic words properly is very important, too." Harry managed to make his feather hover on the third attempt, earning 5 points for Gryffindor. Hermione succeeded shortly after. Ron, struggling with the pronunciation, grew increasingly frustrated. "It's Wingardium Leviosa, make the gar nice and long," Hermione instructed. "You do it, then, if you're so clever," Ron snapped. Hermione performed the spell perfectly. Ron's mood soured further. After class, Harry overheard Ron complaining to Seamus and Dean Thomas, "It's no wonder no one can stand her. She's a nightmare, honestly." Hermione pushed past them, tears in her eyes. "I think she heard you," Harry said pointedly. "So?" Ron looked uncomfortable. "She must have noticed she's got no friends." Harry frowned but said nothing. He'd grown to appreciate Hermione's intelligence and determination, even if her bossy manner sometimes grated. When she didn't appear in their next class, he grew concerned. By afternoon, rumors circulated that Hermione was crying in the girls' bathroom and wanted to be left alone. Harry debated checking on her, but hesitated. They'd kept their friendship relatively private while researching Pettigrew, and drawing attention might complicate matters. The Halloween feast that evening transformed the Great Hall. Thousands of bats fluttered from the walls and ceiling, swooping over tables. Feast food appeared on golden plates, just as it had at the start of term banquet. Harry was helping himself to a baked potato when Professor Quirrell sprinted into the hall, turban askew, terror on his face. "Troll, in the dungeons, thought you ought to know." He sank to the floor in a dead faint. Uproar ensued. Dumbledore shot purple firecrackers from his wand for silence. "Prefects," he rumbled, "lead your houses back to the dormitories immediately." Percy Weasley leapt into action, ordering first-years to stay close. As they filed out of the Great Hall, Harry grabbed Ron's arm. "Hermione. She doesn't know about the troll." Ron bit his lip. "Oh, all right," he relented. "But Percy'd better not see us." Ducking into a side corridor, they hurried toward the girls' bathroom. They'd just turned a corner when they heard quick footsteps behind them. "Percy," hissed Ron, pulling Harry behind a stone griffin. But peering around, they saw Snape crossing the corridor and disappearing from view. "Where's he going?" Harry whispered. "Why isn't he down in the dungeons with the rest of the teachers?" "Search me," Ron shrugged. Harry's crown pulsed warmly against his temples. The shadows around them deepened, and he sensed something unusual, death's presence, but twisted, unnatural. Quietly, they crept along the next corridor after Snape's fading footsteps. Harry realized the professor was heading for the third floor, toward the forbidden corridor. "He's trying for whatever that three-headed dog is guarding," Harry murmured, recalling information his ghostly spies had gathered about the corridor's defenses. But before they could follow further, a foul stench reached their nostrils, a mixture of old socks and the kind of public toilet no one cleans. Then they heard it, a low grunting, and the shuffling footfalls of gigantic feet. Ron pointed. At the end of a passage to the left, the troll was emerging, 12 feet tall with dull, granite-gray skin, a lumpy body like a boulder, and a small head perched on top. It dragged a huge wooden club along the floor. The troll stopped next to a doorway and peered inside. It waggled its long ears, making up its tiny mind, then slouched slowly into the room. "The key's in the lock," Harry muttered. "We could lock it in." "Good idea," said Ron nervously. They edged toward the open door, Harry's hand stretched out for the key. With one quick motion, he slammed the door and turned the key. Yes. Flushed with success, they started to run back toward the main staircase, but were halted by a high, petrified scream, coming from the chamber they'd just locked. "Oh, no," Ron said, pale as the bloody Baron. "It's the girls' bathroom." Harry gasped. "Hermione," they said together. Cursing, Harry unlocked the door and they ran inside. Hermione Granger was shrinking against the opposite wall, looking as if she was about to faint. The troll was advancing on her, knocking sinks off the walls as it went. "Confuse it." Harry desperately yelled to Ron, seizing a tap and throwing it against the wall. The troll stopped, blinking stupidly, then turned its ugly snout toward Harry. It hesitated, then made for him instead, lifting its club. "Oi, pea-brain!" Ron yelled, throwing a metal pipe at it. The troll didn't even notice, but it heard the yell and turned toward Ron instead. Harry felt the crown grow hot against his head. With death nearby, his powers intensified. The shadows beneath the sinks writhed, forming into skeletal snakes that slithered toward the troll's feet. "Bind it!" Harry commanded. The bone snakes wrapped themselves around the troll's ankles, tripping it. As it stumbled, Harry seized his chance. "Wingardium Leviosa," he shouted, aiming at the troll's club. The club flew from the troll's grasp, rising high into the air, turning slowly over, and dropped, with a sickening crack, onto its owner's head. The troll swayed on the spot, then fell flat on its face with a thud that made the whole room tremble. Hermione stared at Harry, then at the skeletal snake still wrapped around the troll's ankles. "Is it dead?" she whispered. "I don't think so," said Harry. "Just knocked out." With a wave of his hand, the bone snakes dissolved back into shadows. Ron hadn't noticed them in the chaos, his attention fixed on the fallen troll. "Blimey, Harry. That was brilliant." A sudden slamming and loud footsteps made the three of them look up. Moments later, Professor McGonagall burst into the room, closely followed by Snape, with Quirrell bringing up the rear. Quirrell took one look at the troll, let out a faint whimper, and sat quickly on a toilet, clutching his heart. Snape bent over the troll. McGonagall was looking at Ron and Harry with fury in her eyes. "What on earth were you thinking?" she said with cold rage. "You're lucky you weren't killed. Why aren't you in your dormitory?" Then a small voice came out of the shadows. "Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me. Miss Granger." Hermione stepped forward. "I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own, you know, because I've read all about them." Harry stared at her. Hermione Granger, telling a downright lie to a teacher. "If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now." Harry levitated its club and knocked it out. "They didn't have time to come and fetch anyone. It was about to finish me off when they arrived." Ron dropped his wand in surprise at this bold-faced fabrication. Harry maintained a neutral expression. "Well, in that case," said Professor McGonagall, staring at the three of them. "Miss Granger, you foolish girl, how could you think of tackling a mountain troll on your own?" Hermione hung her head. 5 points will be taken from Gryffindor for this, said McGonagall. I'm very disappointed in you. As for you two gentlemen, she turned to Harry and Ron, 5 points will be awarded to each of you. Professor Dumbledore will be informed of this. You may go. They hurried out of the chamber and didn't speak until they had climbed 2 floors up. We should have gotten more than 10 points, Ron grumbled. 5, you mean, once she's taken off Hermione's, Harry corrected. Thanks for getting us out of trouble, Ron told Hermione awkwardly. Mind explaining those bone snakes? Hermione whispered to Harry when Ron walked ahead. Later, Harry promised. They reached the portrait of the fat lady. Pig snout, they said and entered. The common room was packed and noisy. Everyone was eating the food that had been sent up. Hermione, however, stood alone by the door, waiting for them. There was an embarrassed pause. Then, none of them looking at each other, they all said, thanks, and hurried off to get plates. But from that moment on, the 3 became friends. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. Later that night, when the dormitory had quieted, Harry sat by the window, Rattle perched beside him. The crown hummed with residual energy from the evening's events. Something's wrong at Hogwarts, Harry murmured to his skeletal companion. The troll was a distraction. Snape was heading to the 3rd-floor corridor. And Quirrell. Harry trailed off, remembering the moment Quirrell had entered the bathroom. The unnatural aura Harry had sensed around the defense professor had intensified dramatically near the troll, as though death itself clung to him like a second skin. Not the clean, natural death Harry worked with, but something corrupted. Something that should have died but refused to cross over. Something eerily similar to what Harry had felt emanating from the package Hagrid had retrieved from Gringotts. Voldemort, Harry whispered, the pieces suddenly connecting. He's here. The crown flared in confirmation, bathing the window alcove in silver light. Below, in the Hogwarts grounds, a Thestral looked up from the edge of the forbidden forest, sensing its king's realization. Death had crowned Harry at 5, and now, at 11, he faced the very being who had triggered that destiny, the wizard who had murdered his parents, who had torn his own soul in his desperate attempt to escape death's natural order. Harry's hand drifted to the scar on his forehead, which had prickled uncomfortably in Quirrell's presence all evening. The game begins, he murmured, as Rattle chittered silently in agreement. And this time, death will not be cheated. Chapter 3, Realms Beyond. November arrived at Hogwarts with a blast of icy wind and frost-covered grounds. The mountains surrounding the castle turned iron gray, and the lake chilled to steel. Each morning revealed the grass crisp with frost, and Hagrid could be seen from upstairs windows defrosting broomsticks on the Quidditch field, bundled in his long moleskin overcoat. But Harry felt an entirely different kind of chill as he sat in the empty dormitory, staring at the note Rattle had retrieved from beneath Quirrell's turban while the professor slept. Master, the boy grows suspicious. His connection to death allows him to sense your presence. We must accelerate our plans for the stone. Harry's hands trembled as he reread the words. Written in an entirely different handwriting from Quirrell's nervous scrawl, it confirmed his worst suspicions. Voldemort hadn't died that Halloween night 10 years ago. Somehow, he was sharing Quirrell's body, hiding beneath that ridiculous purple turban. We need to move fast, Harry told Hermione as they huddled in an empty classroom later that day. The stone must be what was in that package from Gringotts, the thing Fluffy is guarding. Hermione nodded, face pale but determined. And if Voldemort wants it, that can't be good. Flammel, Ron muttered, pacing anxiously. They'd finally told him everything, about Harry's crown, his powers, and Pettigrew's true identity. After initial shock and disbelief, especially about his rat, Ron had rallied admirably. We need to figure out who Nicholas Flamel is. I've been through half the library already, Hermione sighed. Harry traced the crown that only he and Hermione could see. My ghostly advisors are searching too. Sir Edmund thinks he remembers Flamel from centuries ago, but can't recall why he's important. Blimey, Ron shook his head. Still can't believe you've got ghost advisors. Or that my rat is. He couldn't finish the sentence, looking sick. We'll handle Pettigrew soon, Harry promised. But first, we need to deal with Voldemort before he gets whatever this stone is. As if the revelation about Quirrell wasn't enough, Harry's first Quidditch match was fast approaching. Gryffindor would be playing Slytherin, and no one would let Harry forget that Seekers were usually the players most targeted for injuries. At least no one will try to kill you, Ron said helpfully. Harry exchanged looks with Hermione. They weren't so sure about that anymore. The day before the match, the three of them were in the freezing courtyard during break, Hermione conjuring a bright blue fire they could carry around in a jam jar. Standing with their backs to it, warming themselves, they spotted Snape crossing the yard. Harry noticed at once that Snape was limping. The potions master limped over, looking for something to criticize. His eyes fell on the jar of flames. What's that you've got there, Potter? A book. Harry showed him his copy of Quidditch Through the Ages, which Hermione had lent him. Library books are not to be taken outside the school, said Snape. Give it to me. 5 points from Gryffindor. He limped away, confiscating the book. He just made that rule up, Harry muttered angrily. Wonder what's wrong with his leg. Dunno, but I hope it's really hurting him, said Ron bitterly. Fluffy, Hermione whispered. Remember, Snape was heading toward the third-floor corridor on Halloween night. Maybe he's trying to steal the stone for himself. Or, Harry countered, he suspects Quirrell and is trying to protect it. Ron snorted. Snape? Protecting something? That's a laugh. We don't know whose side he's on yet, Harry insisted. That evening, Harry decided to ask Snape for the book back. He headed to the staff room and knocked. There was no answer. He pushed the door ajar and peered inside. A horrible scene met his eyes. Snape and Filch were inside, alone. Snape was holding his robes above his knees. One of his legs was bloody and mangled. Filch was handing Snape bandages. Blasted thing, Snape was saying. How are you supposed to keep your eyes on all three heads at once? Harry tried to shut the door quietly, but, Potter. Snape's face was twisted with fury as he dropped his robes quickly to hide his injury. I just wondered if I could have my book back. Get out. Out. Harry left before Snape could take any more points from Gryffindor, sprinting back to the common room where Ron and Hermione waited. Did you get it? Ron asked as Harry joined them. What's the matter? In a low whisper, Harry told them what he'd seen. You know what this means, he finished breathlessly. Snape tried to get past that three-headed dog at Halloween. He's after whatever it's guarding too. Or, Hermione interjected, he suspected Quirrell would use the troll as a distraction and tried to head him off. You're really giving Snape a lot of credit, Ron said skeptically. I just don't think we should assume anything yet, Hermione replied. That night, after his dormmates fell asleep, Harry slipped out of bed. Rattle emerged from beneath it, and together they made their way to the window. Harry had discovered that with enough concentration, he could project his consciousness beyond the castle walls, connecting with his forces in Whitaker's woods. The crown glowed softly as Harry closed his eyes, reaching out across the miles. His mind soared over dark forests and sleeping villages until he found the familiar clearing with his cottage sanctuary. Sir Edmund, Harry called mentally. Are you there? The ghostly knight materialized in Harry's vision. Your Majesty. We were about to contact you ourselves. What news? Your godfather has been researching the Flammel connection with Agnes. They found something significant. The scene shifted, and Harry saw Sirius, looking healthier than ever, poring over ancient books with the ghostly witch. Harry. Sirius looked up with a grin. Perfect timing. We've identified Flammel. He's an alchemist, over 600 years old. And, Agnes added, floating closer, he's the only known creator of the Philosopher's Stone. The what? A legendary substance, Agnes explained. It transforms any metal into pure gold and produces the elixir of life, which grants immortality. Sirius's expression darkened. If Voldemort gets his hands on it, he could return fully, Harry finished. No wonder Quirrell's been acting strange. He's trying to steal it for his master. There's more, Sirius said grimly. The ghosts have been monitoring Quirrell. Sometimes at night, he visits the Forbidden Forest to drink unicorn blood. Unicorn blood? It will keep you alive even if you're an inch from death, Agnes explained. But at a terrible price. You live a cursed life from the moment it touches your lips. Voldemort must be desperate, Harry reasoned. The stone would offer true immortality, not this half-life. You must stop him, Harry, Sirius urged. But carefully. Don't confront him alone. I won't. And I haven't forgotten about Pettigrew either. We're almost ready to expose him. Good. The sooner I'm cleared, the sooner I can help you properly. Harry's connection began to fade, maintaining it for long periods still drained him considerably. I'll contact you after the Quidditch match tomorrow, Harry promised as the vision blurred. Be careful, came Sirius's fading voice. And Harry? Your father would be proud of your flying. Harry opened his eyes, back in the Gryffindor dormitory. Rattle chittered quietly on his shoulder. The Philosopher's Stone, Harry whispered. No wonder Dumbledore's keeping it here. But we still don't know when Quirrell plans to steal it. Sleep came fitfully that night, filled with dreams of three-headed dogs and hooded figures drinking silver unicorn blood. The next morning dawned bright and cold. The great hall buzzed with excitement for the upcoming match. Harry picked at his breakfast, stomach churning with nerves. You've got to eat some breakfast, Hermione insisted. I don't want anything. Just a bit of toast, she wheedled. I'm not hungry. Harry felt terrible. In an hour, he'd be walking onto the field. Harry, you need your strength, said Seamus Finnegan. Seekers are always the ones who get clobbered by the other team. Thanks, Seamus, said Harry, watching Seamus pile ketchup on his sausages. By 11 o'clock, the whole school seemed to be in the stands around the Quidditch pitch. Many students had binoculars. The seats might be raised high, but it was still difficult to see what was going on sometimes. Ron and Hermione joined Neville, Seamus, and Dean in the top row. As a surprise for Harry, they had painted a large banner that said Potter for President. Dean, who was good at drawing, had done a large Gryffindor lion underneath. Hermione had performed a tricky little charm so that the paint flashed different colors. Meanwhile, in the locker room, Harry and the rest of the team were changing into their scarlet Quidditch robes. Wood cleared his throat for silence. Okay, men, he said. And women, said Chaser Angelina Johnson. And women, Wood agreed. This is it. The big one, said Fred Weasley. The one we've all been waiting for, said George. We know Oliver's speech by heart, Fred told Harry. We were on the team last year. Shut up, you two, said Wood. This is the best team Gryffindor's had in years. We're going to win. I know it. He glared at them as if to say, or else. Right. It's time. Good luck, all of you. Harry followed Fred and George out of the locker room and, hoping his knees weren't going to give way, walked onto the field to loud cheers. Madame Hooch was refereeing. She stood in the middle of the field waiting for the two teams, her broom in her hand. Now, I want a nice fair game, all of you, she said. Once something went wrong with this response, please try again. Write the next chapter after this. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.